Chapter 3:18. It doesn't have to be an antidote, as long as it can be detoxified. Any method is fine, Dongbua Shui Ying said anxiously. Even suppressing the poison is fine. Suppressing the poison? Aren't you taking the 100 bitter restoration antidote? This is already the most suitable method. The green-haired Shui shook her head. Could it be that your crimson rock mountain can't even detoxify a weakened version of the six ghost resentment? Dongbua Shui Ying was really anxious. He knew, after passing the simplest and most basic test, there was a limit to the value of the gifts given to the transcendents. But things like watching creation of the heavens and earth or cultivation abode were actually very valuable. It was very difficult to exchange 10 or even 100 deity artifacts for such an opportunity. However, creation of the heavens and earth was something that Crimson Rock Mountain already had. Watching it once wouldn't be a loss to Crimson Rock Mountain. The cultivation abode was also something that Crimson Rock Mountain already had. Allowing transcendence to enter and cultivate, there wouldn't be any loss to the cultivation abode. Therefore, Crimson Rock Mountain was willing. Dongbua Shui Ying felt that Crimson Rock Mountain should be able to detoxify the weakened version of the six ghost resentment. After all, this place represented a powerful existence of the deity realm. Apart from the antidote, there are naturally other methods to detoxify the poison, Shui said. The green-haired woman, Senior Shui, said, however, those methods far exceed the value of the antidote. Dongbua Shui Ying didn't know what to say. Is there really no other way? Dongbua Shui Ying asked again. No. Hearing this answer, Dongbua Shui Ying went silent. In fact, he had mentally prepared himself for this. Previously, when he told Percy I and the others about obtaining treasures through the Meteor Bridge, he only said that he hoped to obtain the antidote. It was only a hope. He didn't have absolute confidence, but he had always felt that Crimson Rock Mountain was incomparably mysterious and powerful, and that a small amount of six ghost resentment should be able to detoxify it. But reality proved him wrong. This was a terrifying peak deity-level poison. Even if it was weakened, detoxifying it wasn't that easy. It seems that I have to follow another plan, Dongbua Shui Ying thought to himself. Why did he want to move with the other teams? He was worried that he wouldn't be able to detoxify the poison after crossing the Meteor Bridge. He had many plans. The first plan, the easiest way, was to pass the basic test and successfully detoxify the poison under the sky-reaching vine. After that, Dongbua Shui Ying would first cultivate and try to break through to the third stage realm as soon as possible. After that, he would go on an adventure on the first leaf of the sky-reaching vine, thinking of ways to obtain various treasures. Sky-reaching vine. There were a total of 5 huge vine leaves. Each vine leaf was much larger than a planet. The first vine leaf was filled with danger, as well as countless fortuitous encounters. For example, Ancestor Black Wind's God World soldiers and corpses of God World creatures were all obtained from the first vine leaf. However, due to the dangers involved, Ancestor Black Wind was forced to crush the talisman and was immediately escorted out of Crimson Rock Mountain. Talisman. It was a treasure that every person who passed the basic test would receive from Senior Shui before challenging the sky-reaching vine. The sky-reaching vine was too dangerous. The higher one went, the more difficult it became. Even demigods at the level of Percy I and Misha Master had a very slim chance of making it through. However, when they encountered danger, they could crush the talisman and choose to give up. If they gave up, they could leave with their lives intact. Thus, although Crimson Rock Mountain was dangerous back in the deity world, except for those who were too crazy on the sky-reaching vine, most of the cautious ones would crush the talisman in time to save their lives. Of course, Percy I and Misha Master were different. They had all received orders from world deities and had all signed oaths. Thus, they could not choose to give up. They had to reach the higher level alive and obtain the treasures the world deities needed. If they failed, even if they used the talisman to leave, they would die under the penalty of the oath. The first and second vine leaves have many fortuitous encounters. Dongbua Shui Ying thought. Xia people's senior demigods. There was an extremely small number who entered the first vine leaf and left with treasures. When danger arrived, they would crush the talisman immediately. Thus, for those demigods of Xia people, the most basic test was the most difficult. Xia people have rarely passed the most basic test in the past million years, Dongbua Shuang thought. However, Senior Chao Qing was extremely lucky and successfully made it here. Every 3,000 years, there would be a few who would enter and try. Xia people had accumulated a lot of demigods over the past million years. However, the basic test was too difficult. The Floating Sky Island and the Meteor Bridge were simply places of despair for ordinary demigods. Thus, only the top 3 demigods or era suppressors would take the risk and try their luck here. According to probability, for era suppressors, only 1 out of 10 would make it through alive. As for the top 3 demigods, only 1 out of 2 or 300 would make it through alive. Senior Chao Qing was such a lucky one. Chao Qing's method was the method Xia people's demigods often used, driving a demigod-ranked flying boat. A demigod-ranked flying boat was very difficult to destroy. Thus, it could withstand several attacks from the stone sculpture guards, flying venomous scorpions and silver-armored swordsmen. It was better to be attacked than to be stopped. However, if one was stopped and trapped, one would definitely die. One had to rely on speed. Rush over at the fastest speed. The Floating Sky Island was relatively better. The stone sculpture guards only moved at a speed of 50 kilometers per second. If one were to attempt it alone, the number of stone sculpture guards would not be too ridiculous. If one were to attempt it alone, with luck, one would be able to make it through. As for the flying venomous scorpions, the 10 ordinary flying venomous scorpions had weak attacking techniques. Only the god-ranked flying venomous scorpions were more difficult to deal with. The silver-armored swordsman was the most difficult. The silver-armored swordsman's saber technique realm was very high. Once one was entangled by him, and the flying boat slowed down, one would definitely die. Chao Qing had condensed the thunder god's deity heart. The flying boat he brought was one of the demigod-ranked flying boats that Dongbua Shuang had plundered from the demonic faction's headquarters. The runes on the flying boat were lightning type. Actually, the arrays on these fast-flying boats were generally lightning type, wind type runes that could increase one's speed. Chao Qing had grasped the thunder god's deity heart and was most proficient in lightning type runes. It could be said that in terms of speed, not counting Dongbua Shuang, he was the fastest person in Xia people. He could reach 250 kilometers per second. After all, lightning type runes are good at speed. With the help of the flying boat, he could reach a speed of 250 kilometers per second. He was even faster than Uncle Fu and an old thief. Relying on speed and risking his life, Chao Qing luckily passed. Later on, Chao Qing chose the cultivation paradise from Senior Shiwei. After that, there was no more news of him. Now, he had already passed the limit of 3,000 years. Of course, choosing to take the flying boat was purely a matter of luck. Generally, era suppressors wouldn't do this. For example, taking the flying boat, one wouldn't be able to attack outside the boat. Once one was blocked and trapped, such as being completely surrounded by a group of stone statue guards, coming out to fight at that time was practically suicide. Xia people of the past demigods, if they were lucky enough to succeed, they would usually go to the first vine leaf to obtain some treasures. Dongbua Shuang shook his head. I originally wanted to do that, but unfortunately, I can't. I need to use the first and second vine leaves. The 5 vine leaves of the sky-reaching vine were even larger than the stars, especially the first 2 giant vine leaves. There were countless fortuitous encounters. Perhaps the Almighty of the realm of the gods wanted to use this opportunity to attract some demigods to the sky-reaching vine and use the fortuitous encounters to unearth the potential of some demigods. I hope to break through to the 3rd stage on the first vine leaf. Dongbua Shuang thought to himself. If it doesn't work, then I'll find a place where time flows faster on the second vine leaf. I'd rather be separated from Persei and stay behind to cultivate. I must reach the 3rd stage before I can advance. The second vine leaf. There were places where time flowed slower and places where time flowed faster. If he found a place where time flowed faster, a month would be a day in the outside world. Dongbo Shui Ying wanted to use this kind of environment to cultivate for 10 or 20 years. After all, he had been poisoned by the six ghosts' resentment. In theory, he could last for 200 years, but he had only lived for 100 years. As for maintaining his combat strength, he estimated that he could last for another 50 years. Therefore, he would rather cultivate for 10 or 20 years on the second vine leaf to increase his strength. Once he stepped into the third stage of extreme piercing, mirage, and star, there would be a metamorphosis in his strength. As for reaching the peak of the third stage, there wasn't enough time. Reaching the third stage was enough. His strength surpassed that of Persei and Misha Master. Moreover, at the third stage of the true meaning of mirage, he would be able to switch between his body and mirage avatars like an old thief. At that time, his ability to protect himself would greatly increase. He would also have the confidence to pass through the sky-reaching vine. Dongbo Shuiying stood there, thinking rapidly. The green-haired woman, Senior Shiwei, shook her head slightly. Little guy, I can't cure you of the poison, but you still have to choose a gift. Why don't you watch Genesis Splitter once? In the God Realm, this is very rare. Alternatively, you can choose the Cultivation Paradise. It's a very good place for the guardian disciples of Crimson Rock Mountain to cultivate. It's very beneficial for cultivation. In the God Realm, people like Persei and Wumahai had generally received good cultivation environments. Misha Master, Ken Huang, and the others had also exchanged for good cultivation environments in the Temporal Temple. Only the demigods of the Xia people. Few of them chose Genesis Splitter. Most of them chose the Cultivation Paradise. After all, the demigods of the Xia people lived in the mortal world and had never truly cultivated in a good cultivation environment. For them, it was very helpful. I saw that your talent was quite high, so you enter Crimson Rock Mountain. You should be a transcendent of the Xia people's world, right? To be able to create a secret skill, I'm afraid that in the God Realm and the Abyss, you would have been cured long ago. The green-haired woman, Shi Wei, said, It's not bad for you to go to the Cultivation Paradise. It's still too early for you to completely lose control of your voodoo poison. You can definitely enter the Cultivation Paradise to cultivate for 50 years. Didn't the Xia people have a transcendent who was nearing the end of his lifespan come 100 years ago? He chose the Cultivation Paradise and was very lucky to successfully open the deity's sea and become a divine spirit. Dongbo Shui Ying was completely stunned, his mind blank. Chapter 319. Some readers felt that it was unreasonable to not receive the antidote after passing the basic test. Let me explain. First, when the Temporal Temple invited Shui Ying, they had already hinted that Shui Ying would be able to easily pass through the basic trial. Furthermore, it was impossible for the six ghosts' resentment hex poison's antidote to be included in the trial. Entering the sky-reaching vine will be very dangerous for Dongbo Shuiying. Second, Dongbo Shuiying did not dare say that he had absolute confidence. He only had expectations. Third, the value of the gifts. For 1,000,000 years, a few Xia people would enter the Crimson Rock Mountain every 3,000 years. Over 1,000,000 years, more than 1,000 demigods had passed. Of course, there were some who succeeded. But up until now, the Xia people had not received a single deity weapon from the Crimson Rock Mountain. From this, it could be seen that the value of the gifts was lower than that of a deity weapon. As for the 100 bitter restoration antidote, it was equivalent to giving away a deity weapon. In other words, the two were equivalent in the deity world. And for the true antidote for the six ghosts' resentment to be sent down, it would not be enough even if all the ancestors of the Xia people sold their entire fortune. Even in the deity world, the value of the six ghosts' resentment antidote far exceeded that of a deity weapon. As mentioned previously, if Dongbo Shuiying was in the deity world, I could easily save him. The Purple Thunder Emperor was from the Bloodshed God Palace and specialized in the Tao of medicine. Being in a favorable position, he could easily ask his superior for help and pay 8 or 10 deity weapons to save Dongbo Shuiying. And sending a deity weapon into the mortal world was far more expensive than 8 or 10 deity weapons. Also, as mentioned earlier, Chunjio's true love died from the voodoo poison. Chunjio was the villa lord of the Flying Sword Villa, and there were 2 deities in the villa who died from the voodoo poison. Hexing poison was a great Tao. The sorcerer god's greatest achievement in the deity realm was researching the 6 ghosts' resentment hexing poison. That was because a hexing poison that could only be created by a peak deity would be a joke. The Purple Thunder Emperor was a member of the Bloodshed God Palace who specialized in the Tao of medicine. Or perhaps Dongbo Shui Ying's talent was high, and he was chosen by a major power, and they were willing to pay any price to save him. As for sending the antidote to the mortal world, with Dongbo Shui Ying's current talent, other than the Temporal Temple, no other superpowers would come to invite him, including the Bloodshed Tavern. The value of an antidote was shockingly high, even in the divine world. Therefore, even if all the ancestors of the Xia people, including peak deity-level experts like the Purple Thunder Emperor and the Cloud Sea Emperor, were to donate all their wealth, it would not be enough. All right, combined with the above, does everyone understand now? It was impossible to obtain the antidote for the 6 ghosts' resentment after passing the basic test. Even if the poison was weakened, it still exceeded the value of the gift. Chapter 320. Is he called Chao Qing? Dongbo Shuang quickly regained his senses and asked anxiously. I don't know about that. The green-haired Shi Wei was shocked. Why? Don't you know that he became a deity? If I'm not wrong, you and him are both from the Xia people. Yes. Dongbo Shuang nodded, following which Dongbo Shuang waved his hand and heaven and earth energy gathered in front of him, forming an image of Chao Qing. Is it him? Dongbo Shuang asked again. Amen. The green-haired Shi Wei nodded. Dongbo Shuang's heart was filled with boundless joy. Chao Qing opened his deity, see, and became a deity? That's great. That's great. That's really great. Dongbo Shuang was incomparably excited. Even if he successfully cured himself of the poison, he wouldn't be this happy. Senior Chao Qing has become a deity. We, the Xia people, now have a deity. Even if the sorcerer god and the great demon god start a war, we, the Xia people, will finally have the power to resist. Chao Qing didn't die. This was worth celebrating. But becoming a deity was even more worth celebrating. A deity, and one with a grade 4 deity heart. In terms of strength, he might not even be comparable to Dongbo Shuang, Persei, or the Lords of Alon. At most, he would only be close to them. But deities had their own special significance. For example, they could control the Ding Geo battleship. With Senior Chao Qing here, there would be an endless supply of god energy to activate the Ding Geo battleship. Even if the arrays on the battleship were too complicated to fully comprehend, with god energy, the power of the battleship would naturally be different. Dongbo Shuang was excited. Senior Shi Wei. Dongbo Shuang asked again, did he leave? Or is he still in Crimson Rock Mountain? He left long ago. The green-haired woman, Shi Wei, said, originally he could have trained in the cultivation paradise for 1,000 years. However, as soon as he became a deity, he left the cultivation paradise without staying for long. Furthermore, with his current strength, he would not be able to participate in the deity-level trial. Naturally, after leaving Crimson Rock Mountain, he should have returned to the Xia people. Red Rock Mountain. In fact, other than the demigod-level test, there was also the god-level test. Of course, it had to be a real god. Something like the god Avatar that was suppressed to the demigod limit. Power couldn't be considered a true god, nor could it be considered a demigod. He left Crimson Rock Mountain and returned to the Xia people. Dongbo Shuang was puzzled. When did he become a god? Why are you asking so many questions? Do you have a grudge against him? The green-haired woman, Shi Wei, frowned. She also felt that something was off. Chao Qing had clearly become a god. Could it be that the Xia people Brad didn't know? She didn't elaborate further. Dongbo Shuang pondered. Senior Chao Qing's lifespan was limited to 3,000 years. He must have ascended to godhood before his lifespan came to an end. In other words, he should have returned to the Xia people tens of years ago, but I've never heard of him returning. When we faced the lords of Ulan's provocations, Senior Chao Qing didn't appear either. Dongboi Shuang pondered, but he clearly went out again. Senior Chao Qing has a god's domain. It's impossible for him to die quietly in the Xia people's world. If he released a bit of his godly power, he would have shaken the entire Xia people's world. Then this can only mean one thing. He's deliberately hiding. Dongboi Shui Ying's eyes lit up, revealing a look of joy. Yes, he was hiding. Amongst the Xia people's demigods, there are probably traitors of the demonic faction. In order to hide, Senior Chao Qing didn't tell any transcendents, not even Palace Lord Chun. Dongboi Shuang nodded his head. Although Palace Lord Chun is absolutely loyal, his every word and action might be spied on by the traitors in the dark. Only by not telling anyone can it be kept a secret. If it's made public, the sorcerer god and the great demon god will know immediately. They will understand that attacking the Xia people will be very difficult. I'm afraid they would rather wait for 7,000 years and wait for Senior Chao Qing to enter the deity world before attacking. Dongboi Shui understood this point. Even if they don't delay and attack forcefully, I'm afraid that after knowing of Senior Chao Qing's existence, they will be prepared. When it came to the Xia people, the sorcerer god and the great demon god paid the most attention to Dongboi Shuang. Chao Qing, on the other hand, was hiding in the dark. Only a hidden killing move would be powerful enough. Hiding in the dark, the initiative is in our hands. Dongboi Shuang was secretly delighted. Senior Chao Qing really can endure. That time when the lords of Ulan and the rest provoked them, Senior Chao Qing actually endured and did not make a move. Compared to the sorcerer god and the great demon god, the lords of Ulan and the rest are just a small problem. Senior Shiwei. Dongboi Shui Ying's smile was brilliant. I choose to observe the creation of heaven and earth. At this time, Dongboi Shui Ying was incomparably relaxed. Previously, he had been under a lot of pressure, worrying about the survival of the entire Xia people. Now that the pressure had lessened, his mood was incomparably good. All right. The green-haired Shiwei nodded and waved her hand. A spatial ripple enveloped him, and Dongboi Shui Ying was instantly teleported away. The world of the Xia people. Beside the pure white beach, a wooden boat was drifting. On the wooden boat, an old man dressed in tattered clothes was currently fishing. He seemed to be fishing calmly, but in reality, his god's domain was carefully sensing the world around him. The entire mortal world. He could sense any battle that was slightly larger in scale. In terms of sensing ability, as a deity who grasped the god's domain, he was currently the strongest in the mortal world. Of course, the moment a deity's avatar descended, it would be a different story. A deity's avatar was a mighty existence of the world deity level. Although its power was suppressed to the limit of a demigod by the entire mortal world, it could only be ranked in the top 3 of the demigod rankings. It couldn't even compare to era suppressors like General Ku Ming or Nuan. However, the laws of profound mysteries were too profound. Although its power was weak, it could still kill a newly ascended deity. Deities at the level of the lords of Ulan and Dongboi Shui Ying were similarly killed in front of a deity's avatar. The main reason was that the disparity in the laws of profound mysteries was too great. Fortunately, that brat Snow Eagle was powerful enough to block that demigod from the dark abyss called the Lords of Ulan at the crucial moment. The old man continued fishing. Otherwise, if the Lords of Ulan really wanted to slaughter the entire Xia people, I'm afraid I would have to expose myself. Back then, when the Lords of Ulan destroyed the array of black-white deity mountain and killed Feng Dong, the commotion wasn't too exaggerated. However, Chao Qing also sensed it and quickly headed over. He arrived slightly earlier than Dongboi Shuang. Watching from afar, he couldn't help but want to show himself. After all, he couldn't just watch as the countless humans of the Xia people's world were slaughtered. Fortunately, Dongboi Shui Ying had resolved everything, which made him feel quite gratified. The little guy he had watched grow up was now no weaker than him, who had become a deity. All the teams have gone to Crimson Rock Mountain, including Snow Eagle. I hope that Snow Eagle can cure himself of the voodoo poison and soar to the skies. Although becoming a deity will pose a threat to the sorcerer god and the great demon god, it won't be fatal. If Snow Eagle can become a deity, they'll definitely lose. Chao Qing silently looked forward to Dongbua Shui Ying soaring to the skies in Crimson Rock Mountain. Within Crimson Rock Mountain, in a secret area, outside the canyon, Dongbua Shui Ying, Uncle Fu, Persei, Meishan Master, and the others were all waiting outside the canyon. Dongbua Shui Ying, you're here as well? Persei said in surprise. You've also chosen to create heaven and earth. Why are all of you standing here? Dongbua Shui Ying asked curiously. We can't go in, Uncle Fu said. We have to take turns to watch the creation of heaven and earth. Wu Ma Hai is currently inside. Once he's done, we'll go in one by one. Dongbua Shui Ying nodded in understanding. Chapter 321. Persei reacted immediately and asked in a low voice, Dongbua Shui Ying, did you get poisoned by the hex poison? Passing the most basic test of the floating island, the meteor bridge, would result in a gift, but only a gift. Dongbua Shui Ying had actually chosen the creation of heaven and earth. What about the antidote? I can't. Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head. Senior Shiwei said that the Six Ghost Resentment is a peak stage deity poison. The antidote is too valuable, far surpassing the value of a gift. But this isn't a primitive hex poison. Persei asked. Even if it's a weakened version, the antidote's value far surpasses the value of a gift. Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head. By the side, the Meishan Master, the golden-robed youth Ken Huang, the white-robed girl, and the others all looked at Dongbua Shui Ying. Although they felt some sympathy, they didn't say anything. Hex poison, AI, it's truly terrifying. Persei sighed. His beloved had died from the hex poison, and even his flying sword manner had no way of saving her. Moreover, the Six Ghost Resentment is a peak stage deity poison. If it was a primitive hex poison, even a peak stage deity expert would be tormented by it. To seek help, one would have to pay a price far surpassing the value of a top-grade deity weapon. Deity weapons were divided into deity, world deity, and even higher. Weapons like the Sorcerer God Saber and Senior Snow were considered top-grade deity weapons. Demigods were incapable of activating ordinary top-grade deity weapons. They could only activate low-grade deity weapons. As for the Sorcerer God Saber and Senior Snow, they both had one thing in common. They were blood-refined deity weapons. The ones that grew alongside their master were all from low-grade deity weapons to top-grade deity weapons. Due to the limitations of the weapon's material, the deity rank was their limit. Because they were blood-refined deity weapons, they could be controlled by demigods. However, the requirement for the soul was extremely high. One needed to be very close to the original owner's soul in order to activate it. Thus, deities that specialize in hex poisons are extremely terrifying in the deity world. Persei said, however, I didn't expect that the sorcerer god's sword's weaker voodoo poison could not be cured even in Crimson Rock Mountain. After all, it's a peak-level divine-level witch poison. The Meishan Master spoke up from the side. Haven't you all noticed that the gifts given by Crimson Rock Mountain are actually quite cheap? They aren't even willing to give a single divine artifact. They were all demigod-grade treasures. The extremely valuable, watching the creation of heaven and earth, and the cultivation grotto heaven won't cause them any loss. Everyone present nodded. Yes, the real treasures given weren't very valuable. The creation of heaven and earth. I'm just taking a look. Cultivation paradise. Cultivating there wouldn't affect the grotto heaven at all. Yes, it's the creation of heaven and earth and the cultivation paradise that attract people. Persei shook his head and smiled. He had to make sure that the demigods were attractive enough. Otherwise, there would be very few who would risk their lives. Back in the deity realm, Crimson Rock Mountain attracted countless demigods. Even deities went. Of course, the deities who went were all peak stage deities. Uncle Fu added from the side. The demigods who came were all peak stage demigods. Naturally, the deities who took the trials were all peak stage deities. You can't blame Crimson Rock Mountain for being stingy. Dongbua Shui said, countless demigods and even deities went to challenge it. If they paid too many gifts, Crimson Rock Mountain wouldn't be able to hold on for too long. Naturally, they had to control the value of the gifts. Only the creation of heaven and earth and the cultivation paradise that don't require much of a price can they be more generous. Everyone present nodded. One demigod would be given a divine artifact. The deity realm was so vast. Over the course of 100 million years, how many demigods had passed the basic trials? How many divine artifacts did they have to give? That was a terrifying number. The value of the gifts had to be strictly controlled. Dongbua Shui, I didn't expect that even without an antidote, he would be so open-minded, said the golden-robed youth, Kinwan. Admirable, admirable. Dongbua Shui smiled, but didn't explain. Previously, he had been somewhat anxious and unresigned. However, the matter of Senior Chao Qing becoming a deity had greatly improved his mood and made him feel much more relaxed. Thus, he was able to accept it. One should always look forward and not always rely on luck. Wumahai was watching the creation of heaven and earth from within the gorge. An hour later, it was the white-robed girl's turn to enter. Everyone took turns to enter. They were in no rush. Each person was given an hour. Dongbua Shui was the last to arrive, and so he was at the end of the line. Why? The gorge, which had been enveloped by an invisible force, suddenly split apart. At this moment, Dongbua Shui was the only one left outside the gorge. He strode into the gorge. The gorge was silent. It didn't take long. Dongbua Shui saw a black-robed elder standing in the distance. Young transcendent. The black-robed elder looked at Dongbua Shui as he said coldly, "It hasn't been too long since you watched the creation of heaven and earth. Usually, after watching the creation of heaven and earth, you would fall into a state of enlightenment. However, an hour later, I will still teleport you back to Shiwei's side. You must understand this." "Yes, Senior." Dongbua Shui bowed respectfully. "This is the creation of heaven and earth imprint." The black-robed elder pointed to a cliff by the side of the gorge. Dongbua Shui turned his head to take a look. There was an invisible force blocking the cliff. But soon after, the invisible force dissipated, revealing a huge crater on the cliff. This crater even had fingerprints. With a single glance, Dongbua Shui was able to determine that this should be the work of a gigantic finger on the cliff. There's no need to think too much. Just use your mental energy to sense it, the black-robed elder said. Yes. Dongbua Shui sat down cross-legged, after which his soul energy permeated the area, seeping into the crater. The instant his soul energy touched the crater Hong, Dongbua Shui saw it. It was a vast and silent void of darkness. Within the void stood a red-haired, red-robed elder. This elder's entire body was like a ball of incomparably dazzling flames. His hair, eyebrows, beard, and even his eyes were fiery red. Just by standing there, the formless pressure he exuded caused the void of darkness to tremble. Even though Dongbua Shui was able to see through the imprint, he still felt fear and respect from the bottom of his heart. This red-haired, red-robed elder stretched out his right index finger and pointed towards the void of darkness. His index finger seemed to expand rapidly, filling up one's vision. At the same time, it seemed to be extremely small, penetrating into the deepest part of the void of darkness. Extremity. Dongbua Shui instantly understood. From this finger, he could sense the extremity. The tip of that finger was like an extremity. It represented the end of all things, and also the extreme point of the beginning of all things. Hong. With a single point of his finger, the void split apart. Boundless primordial energy of heaven and earth surged, and a world began to gradually expand and take shape. Time and space began to appear in this world. There was also a trace of mysterious undulation that permeated the entire world. Of course, there was also the most dazzling fiery light that enveloped the entire world. The world began to take shape. This was a huge blazing world. Plants began to grow, and strange insects and beasts began to be born. Although it was a completely different world from the world of the Xia people, there were still many things in that world. Wah! Everything ended. Once again, a formless energy appeared on the cliff, blocking Dongbua Shui Ying's view of the world. Dongbua Shui Ying sat cross-legged within the canyon. He was completely engrossed in the many fundamental laws of profound mysteries of this world, especially the extreme piercing that he was quite familiar with. That red-haired, red-robed elder had used a single finger to split the heavens and earth. For a moment, countless thoughts appeared in Dongbua Shui Ying's mind. He couldn't help but wave his finger in front of him. Sometimes his finger would pierce out like a spear, and sometimes he would slap out with his palm. The black-robed elder by the side watched on expressionlessly. He had long gotten used to this. In the deity world, it was unknown how many transcendents and even deities would be engrossed in watching this. In any case, no matter how engrossed they were, once an hour was up, even if he would disturb them, he would still forcefully teleport them away. Chapter 322. Within the canyon, Dongbua Shui Ying sat cross-legged in front of the cliff. Beside him, the black-robed old man stood there like a withered tree. As time passed, Dongbua Shui Ying could not help but frown. Damn it! The pain gradually intensified. Before entering the canyon to observe the creation of heaven and earth, Dongbua Shui Ying had immediately consumed the antidote. However, at this point, Dongbua Shui Ying had to consume the antidote every 2 hours, even when he was outside. And in Crimson Rock Mountain, in order not to affect his battle, he had to consume the antidote every hour. However, comprehension and battle were two different things. Comprehension required one to be completely immersed in it. As the pain intensified, it still affected Dongbua Shui Ying. However, Dongbua Shui Ying was not willing to stop. The creation of heaven and earth was simply too shocking. He had countless ideas in his head, and he wanted to test them out before the light dissipated. This is too mystical. The laws of heaven and earth are actually so vast. What I've comprehended in the past is merely a drop in the ocean. Dongbua Shui Ying was filled with excitement. In the past, he had never had a master, and he had comprehended everything by himself. However, during the creation of heaven and earth, when a brand new world was formed, all sorts of laws and profound mysteries were manifested. Only then did Dongbua Shui Ying truly experience the countless laws. Extreme piercing can actually be executed in such a manner. However, compared to the true extreme piercing, it is still far from it. My true antenna star is still too shallow. The mirage is ultimately the mirage. Only a true world is perfect. Dongbua Shui Ying no longer felt arrogant. He could feel that the gap between them was as wide as the heavens and earth. With a single tap of his finger, he was able to open up a new world. If he had such strength, he would probably be able to destroy a mortal world with a flip of his hand. What would the sorcerer god and the great demon god be capable of? Time's up. A cold voice rang out. Wong. A ripple forcefully enveloped Dongbua Shui Ying, and like a chick, he was forcefully thrown out of this space. The scene before Dongbua Shui Ying's eyes blurred. The feeling of forceful teleportation made his body feel uncomfortable and his mind was spinning. Senior Shiwei was so gentle when she teleported, but this black-robed old man is so rough. Dongbua Persei called out. Dongbua Shui Ying also discovered that he had returned to the bottom of the sky-reaching vine. Beside him were Persei, Uncle Fu, Wu Ma Hai, Meishan Master, the golden-robed youth Ken Huang, the black-robed man, and the black-robed girl. Brother Persei, Dongbua Shui Ying smiled. Ha! Being forcefully thrown out must be quite uncomfortable, right? Persei laughed and teased. I'm also very uncomfortable. After being thrown out, I've forgotten most of my original ideas. However, I've gained quite a lot. How do you feel? Astounding, Dongbua Shui Ying said. That's right, the creation of heaven and earth. This is something that only powerful existences can do. Persei nodded. It would be great if I could see it a few more times. Once. The more times you see it, the weaker the effect will be, Ying said. We're planning to cultivate here for 3 days. After that, we'll start walking up the sky-reaching vine. I smiled. It seems like you'll have to come with us. Of course, Ying said. Following which, Ying and the rest of the group of 8 began to cultivate at the foot of the sky-reaching vine. They tried their best to digest the insights they gained earlier, hoping to achieve a breakthrough. Before cultivating, Senior Shui also gave each of them a talisman. Boom! Beneath the sky-reaching vine, within the mirage world. After Ying drank the antidote, he started practicing his spear arts. He wasn't willing to let others see him cultivating. The other 7 sat cross-legged and meditated. However, the effect of Ying's comprehension was weaker. He still had to test his spear arts repeatedly. Boom! 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 Ying's spear was so fast that it left behind countless afterimages. Every time he struck, there would be a black dot at the tip of the spear. His spear arts were much faster than when he first entered the Crimson Rock Mountain. Awesome. Things are really different after reaching the Stage 3 realm. Ying revealed an expression of joy. His extreme piercing had broken through to the Stage 3 realm. Buzz. Swish. His spear was like a swimming dragon. Occasionally, countless spear shadows bloomed like snowflakes, and occasionally, it was like a divine dragon swinging its tail. Unknowingly, 3 days had passed. I'm still lacking some feeling. Ying felt slightly regretful. After practicing his spear arts for 3 days straight, he had only broken through his extreme piercing. His star and mirage were still lacking. The Stage 3 realm isn't a big hurdle. I've already broken through my extreme piercing, but my star and mirage are still lacking. Ying wasn't in a hurry. Let's go. Ying and the other 7 followed the incomparably thick trunk of the sky-reaching vine and flew upwards rapidly. The trunk of the sky-reaching vine was so thick that the naked eye couldn't see the end of it clearly. There were even countless vines coiling around the trunk. Ying and the rest were flying close to the trunk. The further away they were from the trunk, the stronger the undercurrent in the dark, starry sky was. This time, they flew for an even longer time. They flew for a total of 9 days. Knowing that there wouldn't be any danger along the way, Ying controlled himself to drink the antidote every 2 hours. The first vine leaf. Ying and the others continued flying upwards, only to feel an unseen obstruction. It was as if there was a layer of barrier blocking them. They looked down at the side. There was an incomparably huge vine leaf growing out of the trunk of the sky-reaching vine. Previously, the countless vines had some very small vine leaves, but they were all very ordinary. But this incomparably large vine leaf was too exaggerated. From afar, the surface area of this vine leaf was probably even larger than the Xia people's world. This sky-reaching vine was truly worthy of being a world deity. Young Transcendence. The green-haired Shui appeared on the trunk beside them. Senior Shui, Ying, and the rest bowed respectfully. 5 vine leaves. This is the test set by the sacred master for the Transcendence. Shui said, the earlier ones were too simple. This is the true test. If you pass all of them, you will become an honorary disciple of the sacred master. You will also receive many privileges as an honorary disciple. The 8 of them, including Ying, were all filled with anticipation. After becoming an honorary disciple, one would be able to obtain some treasures. Among them, there were some that were extremely attractive to world deities. Persei, Wumahai, and the Lords of Lan were all sent down for the sake of these treasures. As for the antidote, since they had already become honorary disciples, the antidote should be a small matter. All of you should know the method to pass through the first vine leaf. The green-haired Shui pointed at the center of the incomparably huge vine leaf. At the very center, there's a long vine. This long vine is directly connected to the main trunk of the sky-reaching vine. As long as you reach that long vine, you'll have succeeded. Then, you will be able to follow the long vine to the second vine leaf. However, the entire first vine leaf contains countless fortuitous encounters, as well as dangers. Before reaching the long vine, you must be careful. The green-haired Shui smiled after finishing. I wish you all good luck. I hope that I will be able to see all of you on the second vine leaf. Shui's figure then merged into the main trunk of the sky-reaching vine. We will make a move first, the Maishan master said. Wah! The Maishan master brought the white-robed girl and the black-robed man down, flying towards the huge vine leaf. AI, the golden-robed youth, Qin Huang, was about to say something, but the Maishan master and the rest had already set off. He then looked at Percy I's group. Brother Percy I, shall we go together? Wu Ma Hai also turned his head to look at Percy I and the rest, squeezing out a smile. Percy I, Donghua Shuiying, let's go together. Chapter 3:23. The golden-robed youth Qin Huang and Wu Ma Hai both looked towards Percy I's team. Our team has enough people, Percy I said. I have God-grade scrolls. I'll give them all to you. Wu Ma Hai squeezed out a smile and tried his best to persuade. Don't worry, later on, I'll definitely scout ahead and fight at the forefront. Qin Huang also looked towards Percy I and Donghua Shuiying. I'm also willing to give brother Percy I the God-grade scrolls. Donghua Shuiying watched from the side. It was better to let Percy I decide. God-grade scrolls? Yes, they were very useful. But Qin Huang and Wu Ma Hai were both transcendent knights. They couldn't use scrolls. Even if they took it, it would be useless. In Qin Huang's team, the bewitching woman Shui Wei was a transcendent mage, and in Wu Ma Hai's team, the tall and skinny man Bahan could also use God-grade scrolls. Unfortunately, they were both dead. Our team has God-grade scrolls, and you should understand that the more people there are in the team, the more dangerous it will be. Sorry, there's no other way. Let's go, Percy I said. Percy I, Donghua Shuiying, and Uncle Fu all dove down. Humph. Wu Ma Hai looked down, his eyes filled with anger. It's normal not to bring us along. Wu Ma Hai, why don't we work together? This first vine leaf world is strange and unpredictable, and danger can appear at any time. If the two of us work together, we'll be able to resist the danger, the golden-robed youth Qin Huang said. But if the two of us work together, the danger will be greater. The possibility of death is higher. Wu Ma Hai snorted coldly. Let's just leave it to fate. Xiao. Wu Ma Hai also dove down. The golden-robed youth Qin Huang stood alone in midair next to the sky-reaching vine, lightly shaking his head. This was really bad. It was too dangerous to stay in the first vine leaf world without the use of God-grade scrolls. I'll definitely succeed. I definitely will. The golden-robed youth, Qin Huang, murmured to himself as he dove down as well. Donghua Shuiying, Percy I, and Uncle Fu landed at the edge of the first vine leaf world. Donghua Shuiying heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Wu Ma Hai and Qin Huang separated from each other. Brother Percy I, the first and second vine leaf worlds are going to be troublesome, Donghua Shuiying said. We will also need brother Donghua Shuiying's mirage doppelganger to help us investigate, Percy I added. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Crimson Rock Mountain was filled with layers upon layers of danger, and the further it went, the more individual the danger became. Just like the world of the 5 leaves of the sky-reaching vine. The first vine leaf world, the second vine leaf world. At least they could move together. From the third vine leaf world onwards, it was a test of individual strength. They could no longer fight together. Of course, because he could move together with Percy I and the others, Donghua Shuiying would have a much easier time in the first 2 vine leaf worlds. Regarding the first vine leaf world, Donghua, your Xia people's information is more detailed. Percy I looked into the distance. On this enormous vine leaf world, there were undulating mountain ranges and even some flat roads. There was also wilderness, and in the distance, there were even strange metal buildings. The demigods of my Xia people did not dare to hope to pass through the entire sky-reaching vine. Thus, they came to this first vine leaf world in search of fortuitous encounters. Donghua Shuiying laughed. Try to get as many treasures as possible. If there's any danger, immediately crush the talisman and give up. Because we've always been searching for fortuitous encounters, the records of this world are especially detailed. This time, we can't take any risks, Persei said. The three of us will move together, and the dangers we'll encounter will be very strong. Try not to provoke them. Understood. Dongbua Shuang nodded. According to the original plan, if the poison was cured at Senior Shi Wei's place, then Dongbua Shuang would stay in the first vine leaf world for as long as possible. He would search for areas and try to get as many treasures as possible. He could get a dozen deity warriors, or even deity weapons, etc. All of these were possible, but now is not the time to play around. Try to avoid trouble, because the greater the fortuitous encounter, the greater the danger. Look at that pagoda. Persei pointed into the distance. Dongbua Shuang and Uncle Fu looked over. With a glance, they could faintly see a silver-gray pyramid in the weeds in the distance. Level 7 Star Pagoda? Uncle Fu exclaimed. Villa Master, this is a star pagoda, a level 7 star pagoda. Envious? Persei shook his head. I'm envious too. It's more than our flying sword villa's accumulated wealth over countless years. We can even sell it and buy 1 or 2 peak stage deity slaves. But in this first vine leaf world, there's a rule. The greater the fortuitous encounter, the greater the danger. Dongbua Shuang was speechless. By peak stage deity slaves? There are slaves in the deity realm? Deities as slaves? Dongbua Shuang couldn't help but ask. Deity realm? Persei looked at Dongbua Shuang and sighed. The deity realm is much more strict and cruel than you think. Dongbua Shuang fell into deep thought. I heard that when Crimson Rock Mountain was in the deity realm, the first vine leaf world didn't have so many treasures. Persei said, after that powerful existence died, Crimson Rock Mountain fell into the mortal world. Instead, it put many precious treasures in the first vine leaf world. It's probably to attract more and stronger demigods. Although Dongbua Shuang was also envious, the Xia people's intelligence had long recorded that the more dazzling and powerful a treasure was, the more one shouldn't touch it. Ancestor Blackwind was lucky enough to get his hands on some deity realm warriors. Prepare to depart. Persei said. Uncle Fu, cast the spell. Yes. The bald old man Uncle Fu took out a gray deity rank scroll and gently crushed it. Wong. The deity rank scroll immediately shattered, and 2 gray streams of air entered Uncle Fu's eyes. His eyes also carried a deep gray color, as though he could see through everything. Spatial eyes, Persei said. With this spell, we'll be much safer. The spatial eyes was a deity rank scroll specially prepared for the first vine leaf world. For example, the Maishan master Wuma Hai and Qin Wang all brought it with them. However, Wuma Hai and Qin Wang couldn't use deity rank scrolls, so they could only pitifully risk their lives. Although the Maishan master had grasped the complete true meaning of space, unless he condensed the deity heart of space, his perception of space couldn't compare to the spatial eyes. This was a deity rank spatial spell that was painstakingly refined, and it focused on scouting. Dongbua, I'll have to trouble your Mirage avatar to scout ahead, Persei said. No problem. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Previously, Persei's team configuration was very good. An old thief was in charge of scouting for danger. Uncle Fu was in charge of using deity rank scrolls. With the two of them, Persei could easily pass through the first 2 vine leaf worlds. As for the last 3, Uncle Fu and the others had to stop at the 3rd vine leaf world and separate from Persei. Dongbua Shuang had been in this team before they arrived, so he had some merit. Persei couldn't refuse. Secondly, his Mirage avatar could also help scout for danger. As for Wuma Hai and the golden-clothed youth Qin Wang, they could only pray for their own good. Let's go. Dongbua Shuang's 9 Mirage avatars were scattered thousands of kilometers in front, behind, left, and right. Persei, Uncle Fu, and Dongbua Shuang's main body also began to advance towards the center of the first vine leaf world. At the very center, Dozens of kilometers away from that vine, beside a hill, there were a few rocks. Among the rocks, there seemed to be nothing. Even if they tried to scout, they wouldn't be able to find anything, because the space here had overlapped. Apart from the normal space, there was also a hidden space. Inside the overlapped hidden space, a dark-skinned youth wrapped in white cloth was sitting cross-legged. He was the Lords of Ulan, who had entered Crimson Rock Mountain a month earlier than Dongbua Shui Ying's group. As a demon of the Dark Abyss, he could naturally use deity-rank scrolls with deity-rank scrolls. Moreover, he was alone, so it was relatively easy for him to reach the vine. Dong! A faint fluctuation came from afar. Battle! The dark-skinned youth immediately opened his eyes, revealing a pair of faintly glowing golden eyes. He grinned, revealing his pure white teeth. Are you here? Are you finally here? Dongbua Shuiying, you killed Nuanua and Kumeng. Without them to scout for me, you caused me to be poisoned by the voodoo poison and suffer from constant pain. How could I let you go? The dark-skinned youth's eyes were filled with killing intent. Having climbed up from the bottom of the dark abyss, he was a vengeful person. Although he had been poisoned by the voodoo poison, the toxicity was weaker than Dongbua Shui Ying's, and the concentration was also much lower. After all, he had only been stabbed once. After adapting for so long, he could already fight without being affected. I came a month earlier and painstakingly gathered some treasures. Dongbua Shuiying, I've been waiting for you. When you reach the end, it will also be the time of your death. The dark-skinned youth coldly snorted, then closed his eyes and silently waited. Chapter 324. The sky was always dark, and there were always stars in the night sky. Of course, these were all arranged by the master of Crimson Rock Mountain. Under the night sky, within the huge vine leaf world, Dongbua Shuiying and the other two were currently at the foot of a barren mountain. They had a bonfire lit and were roasting meat. From time to time, they would cut off a piece of meat to eat and drink delicious fruit wine. Occasionally, they would intentionally raise their heads to look at the dazzling stars in the night sky. Comfortable, Dongbua Shuiying revealed a smile. It's been 6 days, I can finally relax. It's all thanks to brother Dongbua Shuiying. If not for you and Manor Master, I would have died in these 6 days. The golden-robed bald old man, Uncle Fu, chuckled. AI, everyone has their own responsibilities. If not for Uncle Fu's ability to detect enemies from afar, we wouldn't have had it so easy. Dongbua Shuiying said. Percy I also nodded. In these 6 days, we've suffered a total of 15 attacks. Other than the 6 sudden attacks, the other 9 were from afar. According to the intelligence, we're currently at the center of the vine leaf world. There shouldn't be any more dangers along the way. There's still about 300,000 kilometers left. After we finish eating and drinking, we'll fly over in one go. Amen. Dongbua Shuiying and the golden-robed bald old man nodded. According to the intelligence provided by the world deity-level existences, after passing through the first vine leaf world, excluding the dangers that accompanied the fortuitous encounter, they would suffer 15 attacks. After enduring all 15 attacks, there would be no more attacks. Dongbua Shuiying was inwardly rejoicing. Fortunately, they had Uncle Fu's space eyes, which could detect enemies from afar and allow them to be prepared. They could even rely on speed to defeat the enemies. Even if they suddenly rushed out from some hidden space, Uncle Fu would still be able to detect them. If not for Uncle Fu, those enemies would most likely sneak right in front of them and directly surround and assassinate them. That would be a nightmare. Let's go. Percy I stood up. Kakik. Dongbua Shuiying, on the other hand, finished the bow in his hand in 2 mouthfuls. With a flip of his hand, he took out a flask of wine and drank a mouthful of the antidote. Dongbua, do you feel anything after being tortured by the voodoo poison and eating meat and drinking wine? Percy I couldn't help but ask with a smile. Of course I feel it. If you don't believe me, you can give it a try. Dongbua Shuiying teased. I don't want to try. I can't forget the way the lords of Ulan howled, Percy I said. The 3 of them quickly flew under the night sky. As they flew, they chatted along the way. It was very relaxing. This was because he knew that there was no danger other than fortuitous encounters. Naturally, it was very easy. As for fortuitous encounters, Dongbui Shui Ying's Mirage Avatar was scouting ahead of them. The three of them followed the path that the Mirage Avatar had taken before, so they were naturally very safe. As he flew, he got closer and closer to the central long vine. The first vine leaf world is still relatively easy, Dongbui Shuang thought. Although there were some problems, he and Persei could work together to solve them easily. Just when Dongbui Shuang was in a good mood, suddenly as Dongbui Shui Ying's group of three flew, they suddenly collided with a spatial ripple. Following that, the three of them disappeared. What happened? The expressions of Dongbui Shui Ying, Persei, and Uncle Fu changed greatly. They were clearly flying, and their speed wasn't fast. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken 6 days to travel 6 million kilometers. Why did they suddenly appear here? Dongbui Shui Ying observed carefully. This was a huge sealed cabin. The sealed cabin was 1,000 meters long, 300 meters wide, and 300 meters tall. The sealed cabin was completely empty. There was only a statue in the corner and a chest at its feet. It was a statue of a fat warrior holding a mace, and the chest was made of black metal. This shouldn't be the case. This path was clearly taken by the Mirage Avatar. If the Mirage Avatar didn't enter, how did we enter? Uncle Fu was puzzled. Fortuitous encounter. Persei frowned. We met with a fortuitous encounter. This is troublesome. Dongbui Shui Ying also frowned. Uncle Fu's expression changed slightly. We tried to avoid fortuitous encounters along the way, but we still entered. The demigods of the Xia people desperately wanted to find fortuitous encounters, but Dongbui Shui Ying, Persei, and the others tried their best to avoid them. This was because no one knew if the fortuitous encounter was big or small, but they were afraid that it would be a big one. This was because the big danger brought about by a big fortuitous encounter might be something they couldn't resist, causing them to lose their lives. Fortuitous encounters. Other than those that appear publicly, there are some that are hidden. Some are not only hidden, but also constantly moving. Persei said helplessly. Our luck was too good, so we met one. Be careful, danger can descend at any time. Yes. Dongbui Shui Ying nodded. Persei, Dongbui Shui Ying, and Uncle Fu all looked at the corner of the sealed cabin, at the fat warrior statue, and the black metal chest at its feet. There was nothing else here. Only the statue and the chest. The statue and the chest were very likely the spoils of war from a fortuitous encounter. They weren't afraid of ordinary spoils of war, but they were afraid of spoils of war that were too precious. It looks ordinary, but if I'm not wrong, that statue is a deity warrior, Persei said. The deity warriors in the first vine leaf world are almost all demigod rank. Dongbui Shui Ying nodded. Demigod rank deity warriors were considered relatively ordinary. Usually, they had the strength of the top 10 demigods. Being in the top 3 was already very powerful. Deity warriors were expensive. The most ordinary ones were at the level of the Lords of Valon. Therefore, a deity warrior was worth more than 100 demigod warriors. The danger it represented was also much higher. However, Dongbui Shui Ying didn't need it, because deity warriors were unable to enter the world of the Xia people. It's just a deity warrior? Dongbui Shui Ying relaxed slightly. This was a very simple, fortuitous encounter. Even Ancestor Black Wind had gotten his hands on the 5 shadows and several other deity warriors. Something's not right. Dongbui Shui Ying's pupils shrank. Maybe there's something else in the chest, Persei said. Suddenly, he noticed a change in Dongbui Shui Ying's expression. Dongbui Shui Ying immediately transmitted. Look at the armor of the deity warrior. Persei immediately looked carefully. He even used the formless law domain of the true meaning of 8 dragons to examine it. His expression immediately changed. The armor worn by the fat warrior statue, as well as the mace in its hands, were all deity weapons. Deity weapon? Persei and Dongbui Shui Ying exchanged glances. They were both extremely nervous. Ordinary deity weapons were indeed more valuable than demigod warriors, but there was a limit to the difference. However, the value of armor and mace was completely different. A defensive armor-type deity weapon was usually equivalent to 10 attack-type deity weapons. This was based on the fact that they were all deity low-grade deity weapons. There's even a defensive deity weapon. This is going to be troublesome. Persei frowned as he transmitted. Donbua, send your Mirage doppelganger to take a look at what's inside the chest. Once the chest is touched, that deity warrior might be alerted. I'm afraid that danger will descend upon us. Donbua Shuang said. Amen. Persei also made his preparations. Donbua Shuang nodded. With a thought, a Mirage doppelganger appeared out of thin air. This doppelganger looked exactly like Donbua Shuang. It appeared beside the fat warrior statue and reached for the chest with lightning speed, intending to open it. Scram! The eyes of the fat warrior statue suddenly brightened. He waved the mace in his hands. Since he was right beside the chest, his actions were naturally fast. The mace directly hit the Mirage doppelganger's body. Boom! The Mirage doppelganger was much weaker. It only had the strength of an experienced demigod. It was immediately sent flying, and a huge hole appeared in its chest. This deity warrior is not much of a threat. Donbua Shuang transmitted. The fat warrior statue was only a demigod, and was probably ranked in the top 5 demigods. As for deity weapons, the deity warrior could not activate deity weapons. Deity weapons were just for show. Be careful. Donbua Ying's expression changed. What's wrong? Persei and Uncle Fu were puzzled. They tried their best to investigate, but they could not find anything. What? A dark green tentacle as thick as an arm appeared out of thin air. The tentacle swung and lashed at Persei like a whip. The power was so great that the tentacles lashed out, causing the entire enclosed space in the cabin to tremble continuously. Chapter 325. Persei's eyes were filled with ruthlessness as he punched with his right hand. A black dragon could be faintly seen roaring. The power of Persei's punch was completely restrained, and there was not a single ripple in this enclosed cabin. Pong! The moment his fist collided with the huge, dark green tentacle, the power immediately exploded. A sinister power instantly spread along the tentacle and into the entire body of the unknown creature hidden in the void. Be careful. It's a mirage creature with 8 tentacles. Donbua Shuang immediately transmitted a message. At the same time, his figure flashed and entered the mirage. Rumble. It seemed that the mirage creature was angry that it did not gain the upper hand in a direct confrontation and even felt pain. In an instant, dark green tentacles danced out of the void. In an instant, 5 long tentacles enveloped Persei at the same time. Persei's expression was slightly ferocious as 8 arms suddenly appeared on his body. Pong! Boom! F***CK. In terms of close combat techniques, he was probably ranked first among the people who entered Crimson Rock Mountain this time. The true meaning of 8 dragons contained all sorts of complicated combat techniques. Some were fierce, some were sinister, and some were strange. Moreover, they all contained the concept of life and death and indestructible. Coupled with the true meaning of only me with 8 arms, his close combat strength was terrifying. Back when he was crossing the meteor bridge, even 3 silver-armored swordsmen couldn't do anything to him. While blocking the tentacles head-on, 2 of Persei's hands grabbed one of the tentacles and suddenly pulled it out. Come out! Persei's true meaning of only me surged with power, surpassing all the transcendence in Crimson Rock Mountain this time. That tentacle was actually broken, and the other tentacles were quickly retracted. That broken tentacle fell on the floor of the enclosed cabin, twisting and struggling as it rapidly tunneled into the mirage. Mirage creature? Persei frowned and transmitted a message. Donbua, it seems like I'll have to rely on you. Leave it to me. Donbua Ying's voice echoed in the cabin. Inside the ethereal extent, the white-robed Ying licked his lips. There was still some bitterness in his mouth. This was the antidote to the 100 bitter restoration. He held onto a fiery red spear as he looked at the octopus-like creature in front of him. One of its broken tentacles had returned to the mirage and was reconnected. It floated in the ethereal extent, its 8 tentacles stretching casually, covering an area of 20 to 30 meters. Its blood-red eyes were staring at Dongbua Shuang. This is the first time I've encountered a mirage creature since entering Crimson Rock Mountain, Dongbua Shuang thought to himself. Although he had previously met some creatures that could enter the mirage, such as the stone sculpture guardians and the deity-level flying venomous scorpions, they were not true mirage life forms. Inside the ethereal extent, they were greatly hindered. Their speed and power were all affected. Moreover, each of their moves in the ethereal extent would create strong energy fluctuations. Even in the outside world, he could sense them. But the mirage creatures were different. Inside the ethereal extent, they were free, unhindered, and silent. Just like the transcendent who had mastered the true meaning of mirage. True meaning of mirage? The octopus-like creature looked at Dongbua Shuang and growled. Transcendent, your true meaning of mirage is so weak. You can't even merge with the ethereal extent. You haven't reached it either, have you? Dongbua Shuang held the spear in his hand. I relied on my innate talent, unlike you. Your true meaning of mirage is so weak. I'm afraid your strength is far from that 8-armed transcendent outside, the octopus-like creature said in a low voice. After fighting with Persei for a short while, it was already wary of Persei. That 8-armed transcendent was really strong in close combat. It would be hard for the octopus-like creature to win. But since it was inside the ethereal extent, that 8-armed transcendent could not do anything to it. This was the scary thing about the mirage creatures. They could easily ambush their enemies. However, it was hard for their enemies to find them. But this time, Dongbua Shuang was in the team. That 8-armed transcendent outside is very powerful. As for my strength, you will know once you try, Dongbua Shuang said. Oh, the octopus-like creature instantly waved its tentacles. 8 tentacles immediately enveloped Shuang, each of them filled with a majestic aura. It can clash head-on with Persei. In terms of strength, this octopus-like creature has definitely reached the deity level. However, it seems like its laws of profound mysteries are slightly weaker. Dongbua Shuang's figure moved. Xiao! This movement shocked the octopus-like creature. So fast, his extreme piercing had reached the stage 3 realm. Dongbua Shuang's movement speed had also soared to the standard of 500 kilometers per second. In close combat, his movements were naturally much faster. The spear spun and drew an arc in the air. It was as if a huge star had suddenly expanded and exploded with a dazzling light. Following that, it rapidly shrank into a single point. The octopus-like mirage creature tried to block it. However, Dongbua Shuang's spear contained a whirlpool-like gravitational force and an extremely fast speed. Its tentacles could not block it in time. Thus, Dongbua Shuang's spear pierced its ugly head. Its head instantly caved in and disappeared. However, its 8 tentacles quickly retreated, and its head grew out once again. Such a strong life force, Dongbua Shuang muttered to himself. My spear art was able to kill General Ku Meng with a single strike. This octopus-like mirage creature was actually able to withstand it. And this secret skill of mine has yet to be perfected. Once it is perfected, it will probably be much better. His extreme piercing had just reached the stage 3 realm. His true meaning of star was still at the peak of the stage 2 realm. The secret skill, Star Meteor Annihilation, formed from 2 different true meanings, naturally had to be modified. The difference in strength between the two made it slightly troublesome to combine them. Shuang needed to spend more time perfecting this secret skill. However, no matter what, the secret skill strength was still 30 to 40% stronger than before he entered Crimson Rock Mountain. The octopus-like mirage creature was also startled by this spear, following which it charged forward even more violently. This time, its 8 tentacles coordinated even more perfectly, trying its best not to leave any openings. Xiao! Xiao, Donghua, Shui Ying transformed into countless afterimages. Although the octopus-like mirage creature's tentacles were fast, they were still within Donghua Shui Ying's range of endurance. The spear struck again and again. After the octopus-like mirage creature was pierced 5 times, it finally howled and tried to escape. Trying to escape, Donghua Shui Ying chased after it and continued to use killer moves. The octopus-like mirage creature's body collapsed and was annihilated again and again. After a total of 12 spear strikes, it finally turned into nothingness. Percy and Uncle Fu were waiting anxiously. They could also faintly feel the undulations within the mirage world. Clearly, the battle was quite intense. But following that, the white-clothed Donghua Shui Ying walked out of the mirage world and revealed a smile. It's settled, huh? Percy and Uncle Fu immediately revealed expressions of joy. Fortunately, we have Brother Donghua. Otherwise, that mirage creature would be very difficult to deal with. Its strength and speed have both reached the deity level. Moreover, it is hidden within the mirage world. It can suddenly ambush us at close range, and when we attack the mirage world, its power will be greatly reduced. Percy sighed. The mirage assassination was very troublesome because its attacks were all at close range, and it had 8 tentacles. Amen. Donghua Shui Ying nodded. Brother Percy's close combat skills can be said to be perfect. If it was someone else, it would be very difficult to survive the sneak attack of this mirage creature. It was originally dangerous. However, Donghua Shui Ying had grasped the true meaning of mirage, causing the mirage creature, which was originally used for sneak attacks, to fight head-on with Donghua Shui Ying. Let's take a look at the spoils of war first, Uncle Fu said. Donghua Shui Ying, Percy and Uncle Fu all looked at the fat warrior. The fat warrior was currently tied up by a chain, and the other end of the chain was in Percy's hand. Being tied up, the fat warrior couldn't break free no matter how much he struggled. With his meager strength, he had no way of resisting in front of Percy. Donghua Shui Ying's thoughts moved. A mirage doppelganger appeared and directly walked towards the black metal chest, wanting to open it. Amen. Percy and Uncle Fu's expressions suddenly changed. What's wrong? Donghua Shui Ying looked at them. Wu Ma Hai is dead, Percy said in a low voice. Just now. Chapter 326. What? Donghua Shui Ying was shocked. Wu Ma Hai, the leader of the Temple of the Earth Gods team. He died in the first Vine Leaf world. Donghua Shui Ying was in disbelief. Yes. Uncle Fu added, he and we both had Qi doppelgangers and mana doppelgangers in the Xia people's world. Just now, his Qi doppelganger dissipated in front of us. He was very unwilling before he died. Percy nodded. He had just seen the callous, golden-armored youth, Wu Ma Hai, with his malevolent and crazed expression before his death. It made Chunjiu feel a sense of sympathy for the death of a rabbit. Wu Ma Hai had died in the first Vine Leaf world. What about him? What about him, Percy? Could he really survive the test of the 5 Vine Leaf worlds and become a protector disciple of Crimson Rock Mountain? Sigh. Donghua Shui Ying shook his head lightly. Although Wu Ma Hai was cold and had wanted to ask for 5 deity grade scrolls from the Xia people, Donghua Shui Ying did not hate him. After all, it was just a deal. He did not agree to it. However, he did not expect their team to be annihilated so quickly. He and Qianhuang are unable to use deity grade scrolls. The first Vine Leaf world is very dangerous. I heard Qianhuang say that he has already fought 35 times. Percy said, although Wu Ma Hai is a man of few words, he has probably fought many times. Including the battle with the mirage creature, we have only fought 16 times. Uncle Fu also said, not only were there many battles, but they were also very sudden. Moreover, with so many battles, they must have unintentionally entered some dangerous places. There are no spells like the Eyes of Space. Without Donghua Shui Ying's mirage doppelganger, Wu Ma Hai's death was very normal. Comparatively, Qianhuang was more proficient in long-range attacks. Although it was not as good as the Eyes of Space, it could still detect enemies. Wu Ma Hai's death made Donghua Shui Ying, Persei and Uncle Fu tense up again. Let's see what's inside the box. The Mirage doppelganger walked up to the black metal chest. With a twist, the chest was opened. The black metal chest was empty, and there was only a single bronze talisman inside. It's the combat soldier seal. Persei nodded. That's right. Although a Mirage creature that specializes in assassination has the combat power of a deity, it has an offensive divine weapon, a defensive divine armor, and a deity warrior. It's not bad. Dong Shuang nodded as well. That Mirage creature was actually very difficult to deal with. Even if it encountered him, who could also walk in the Mirage, it would still be difficult to deal with. The treasures were not bad. The demigod ancestors of the Xia people had come here many times in history, but none of them had obtained a divine artifact. Yet, he had obtained it the moment he arrived. Brother Dongbua, it's all thanks to you this time. Persei said, you killed that Mirage creature. Logically speaking, the spoils of war should belong to you, Brother Dongbua. However, I'll shamelessly ask Brother Dongbua to lend me this defensive divine artifact. How about it? If I survive, I'll definitely return this divine artifact. If I die, returning it will depend on luck. There's no need to say more. Brother Persei took care of me in the Vine Leaf world. I don't have any battle chi, so I can't activate the divine artifact. Giving it to me is just for show. Brother Persei, take it. You said that if you survive Crimson Rock Mountain, you have to give me the divine artifact. Dongbua Shuang joked. Of course, of course. Persei revealed a joyful expression. Within Crimson Rock Mountain, a defensive divine artifact would greatly increase one's survivability. As for successfully leaving alive, what was the use of armor then? By the time he returned to the deity world, his flying sword villa would have a defensive divine artifact. Moreover, since he had done such a great deed, the world deity level existences had sworn to reward him with astonishing rewards. Actually, Persei understood that there was a high chance that he would die along the way. Moreover, he would be acting alone in the future. Even if he died, he might not be able to return the divine artifact. I'll shamelessly say no more. Persei said, Brother Dongbua, please hurry up and refine this combat talisman. Yes. Dongbua Shuang extended his hand, and the bronze talisman immediately flew over. He immediately refined it with a drop of his blood. The fat warrior, who had been struggling, immediately stopped struggling. Persei retracted his shackles. Greetings, master. The fat warrior said respectfully. What's your name? Dongbua Shuang asked. Master, my name is Tu Shuang. The fat warrior said. Not long after I was successfully refined, I was teleported to the Vine Leaf world by Senior Shiwei. Put down the 2 divine artifacts. You won't be able to use them even if you hold them. Dongbua Shuang said. Yes, yes. The fat warrior hurriedly put down the spiked mace and took off the armor. These were mine in the first place, and I don't like these weapons. Dongbua Shuang waved his hand and kept the spiked mace. Persei grinned and immediately refined the defensive armor. The divine artifacts within Crimson Rock Mountain had one advantage. They were all ownerless and could be easily refined. Persei's entire body was immediately covered with a layer of silver-gray armor. What weapons are usually suitable for you? Dongbua Shuang asked. He didn't dare to let this deity warrior use the divine artifact. It would be too late for regrets if it was taken away during battle. If he brought the spiked mace back to the Xia people would be able to use it. Shield, great axe. The fat warrior said. I have a shield here, but no great axe. Dongbua Shuang waved his hand and threw a shield and a saber over. Take them first. Back then, the demonic faction had plundered a large number of weapons. The important ones had all been given to the Xia people, but they still kept a few. For example, there were 3 demigod rank spears. They were worried that when using extreme piercing, the stellar fire cloud spear would fail during the material exclusion and be broken by the enemy's armor. Naturally, they had to prepare a backup weapon. Before coming to Crimson Rock Mountain, they had prepared 2 shields, as well as other sabers and staffs. These were actually the demigod rank weapons left behind by General Ku Ming and Nuo S. The fat warrior immediately grabbed the shield with one hand and the saber with the other. Master, I, Tu Shuang, swear to be loyal to Master and fight for Master. He was like a statue, not moving at all. He was so stifled. Seeing this, Dongbua Shuang smiled. There will be a time for you to fight. However, it probably wouldn't be of much use. Master, if you want to go out, I'll open the door. Tu Shuang said. He quickly walked to the side of the cabin wall and lightly placed his palm on it. Ka ka ka. The sealed cabin door slowly opened. It revealed the scenery of the mountains outside. I'll let you out when the battle begins. Dongbua Shuang waved his hand and stored Tu Shuang away. Let's go. Dongbua Shuang, Percy I, and Uncle Fu walked out of the cabin. Just as they walked out of the cabin, when Dongbua Shuang and the rest looked back, they could no longer see the cabin. Without hesitation, they sent their mirage doppelgangers to scout ahead. Uncle Fu scanned the surroundings while Dongbua Shuang and the other two quickly rushed towards the core of the long vine. Dongbua Shuang and the rest were already very close to the long vine. Following the high speed, they traveled for 100,000 li, 50,000 li, 30,000 li. On top of Tall Mountain, there were many trees and plants. Among them, there was a large tree gazing into the distance. Amen. A pair of eyes appeared on the trunk of this large tree. It gazed into the distance and saw Dongbua Shuang, Percy I, and Uncle Fu who were currently rushing over. Master, we've discovered Dongbua Shuang. Beside the long vine, within a few rocks several tens of li away, within the hidden space. The black-skinned youth, the lords of Ulan, who was wrapped in white cloth, suddenly opened his eyes. Are they here? The lords of Ulan also stood up and looked in that direction. He was in the hidden space and could see the outside world. However, the outside world couldn't discover him, unless he walked out of the hidden space. Originally, this hidden space had been ambushed by enemies. After being killed by the lords of Ulan, he temporarily hid here. As time passed, I see them. The lords of Ulan also saw them. More than 6,000 li away, there were currently 3 figures rushing over happily. Naturally, Dongbua Shuang and the other 2 were happy because they were very close to the core of the long vine. Little darlings, let's move. The lords of Ulan grinned. Approximately 1,300 li to the left of the long vine, there was a low mountain. Suddenly, a rumbling sound came from the belly of the mountain. Kill it. Suddenly, a turbulent undulation came from the belly of the mountain. A 4-hooved mutated beast that was fleeing in panic was instantly surrounded by over 10 dark green tentacles that stretched out from nothingness. In an instant, the tentacles entangled it. Then, this 4-hooved mutated beast was completely torn into many pieces. However, there were still other 4-hooved mutated beasts that were fleeing in panic in the direction of Dongbua Shuang and the others. As Dongbua Shuang and the other 2 rushed over, they were all in a good mood. The tall long vine was already incomparably clear to them. However, even if they were to approach it, they still had to be careful. The observational range of the eyes of space was 3,000 li. As for Dongbua Shuang's true meaning of mirage, it could cover 10,000 li. Dongbua Shuang's expression changed. He turned his head and looked at 1,300 li to the left of the long vine. The space of the first vine leaf world was strange. There were many enemies that could move stealthily, and even his mirage could not detect them. However, he could still detect mirage creatures. At the belly of the mountain, inside the mirage, there were many 8-clawed mirage creatures rushing out. Their auras were not any weaker than the one that had been fighting earlier. More than 100 8-clawed mirage creatures rushed out. They were chasing after a group of 4-hooved mutated beasts that were rushing in their direction. 8-clawed mirage creatures. Dongbua Shuang's expression changed drastically. He anxiously transmitted a message. 139 of them. They are charging towards us. Run. The creatures of the first vine leaf world would kill any outsider without mercy. 139 of them? Percy I's eyes widened as well. 8-clawed mirage creatures could be considered to have reached the deity rank. More than 100? Even 100 stone sculpture guards would be very dangerous to them. Why are there so many mirage creatures, and why are they charging towards us? Uncle Fu couldn't believe it. Although he didn't dare to believe it, he didn't dare to hesitate. He also turned and fled. Boom! A figure appeared in midair in the distance. It was a barefooted, dark-skinned young man wrapped in white cloth. He tore a scroll in his hand. A terrifying force instantly enveloped an area of 10,000 li. Countless golden threads appeared. Under the control of the Lords of Wulan, they frantically surged towards Dongbua, Shui, Ying, and the other two, entangling Dongbua, Shui, Ying, and the other two. Shui, Ying, Chunjiu, and Uncle Fu could feel the omnipresent golden threads. They couldn't help but feel anxious as they turned their heads to look. They turned their heads to look and saw the dark-skinned young man in midair. Lords of Wulan, Dongbua Shui Ying couldn't help but have a murderous look in his eyes. Yulan, I will definitely kill you. Percy Eye's eyes were also bloodshot. He seemed to have gone mad. Haha, kill me. Let's talk after you survive the siege of more than 100 mirage creatures. His voice resounded around Dongbua, Shui, Ying, and the others. The Lords of Wulan in midair laughed coldly. Chapter 327. A group of four-hooved mutated beasts was fleeing in panic. Following them were more than 100 terrifying, borderline god-level 8-clawed mirage life forms hidden in the mirage. Dark green tentacles stretched out from the void, fast as lightning and extremely powerful. Either whipping or coiling, the four-hooved mutated beasts were quickly killed. Too terrifying. The Lords of Wulan's expression changed as they watched. They immediately rushed towards the core vine dozens of miles away. Because the distance was very close and his speed was very fast, he crossed dozens of miles in an instant and landed on the core vine. The 8-clawed life forms that had noticed him in the mirage gave up on him. This was because there was a rule in the first vine leaf world. As long as one successfully stepped onto the core vine, they would pass the test of the first vine leaf world and would not be attacked again. Of course, demigod transcendents killing each other was an exception. The Lords of Wulan grinned, revealing their pearly white teeth, and laughed strangely with some excitement. Although these 8-clawed mirage life forms have weak laws and profound mysteries, their strength and speed are all god level. Each of them is stronger than General Kumeng. Moreover, they're launching sneak attacks from the mirage. One-on-one, it would be very difficult for me, not to mention so many of them attacking together. Percy Eye, you're good at close combat. I'm afraid that with just 10 8-clawed mirage life forms, you will definitely lose. As for Dongbua Shui, weren't you hiding in the mirage to make it difficult for others to attack you? Unfortunately, these 8-clawed monsters are all mirage life forms. The Lords of Wulan had been waiting for this day for a long time. After their servants had detected the group of 8-clawed mirage life forms in the belly of the mountain, the Lords of Wulan had been extremely excited and had been planning for this moment. Dongbua Shui Ying, Percy Eye, Uncle Fu, and the others instantly understood that these 100 or so 8-clawed mirage life forms were not something they could resist at all. Therefore, their first thought was to turn and run. Damn it! Dongbua Shui Ying could feel the countless golden threads wrapping around his body. He even tried to enter the mirage, but the golden threads were still entangling him. This caused him to only be able to use 50% to 60% of his normal speed. At this speed, it was impossible for him to shake off the 8-clawed mirage creatures. Yulan, Percy Eye was about to go crazy. What he was shouldering was not only his own life, but also the entire flying sword manor. Uncle Fu, hurry up and leave. Crush the talisman and leave quickly. Percy Eye transmitted anxiously. Wait for me in the Xia people's world. As long as I make it out alive, we can return to the god realm together. At this moment, the yellow-robed bald old man, Uncle Fu, was also anxious. He immediately took out several god-level scrolls and began to use them. No need to give it to me. Give it to Dongbua. Give it to him. Percy Eye transmitted anxiously. I have a divine artifact armor, so there's no need to worry about my defense. Dongbua won't be able to hold on. And, although Uncle Fu was completely inclined towards his Manor Master, he understood that the Manor Master was right. Since he already had a divine artifact armor, the Mirage creatures couldn't ignore the armor and attack directly. Therefore, the defensive buffs from the divine grade scrolls would be a waste. Hua hua, 2 god-level scrolls were torn one after another. A red stream of light and a white mist enveloped Dongbua Shui Ying's body, causing Dongbua Shui Ying's body to seem to be covered with a layer of red and white gauze. Uncle Fu used another god-level scrolls. A formless gray gas seeped into the Mirage realm, wrapping around the 8-clawed Mirage creatures. At this moment, the 8-clawed Mirage creatures had already killed the group of 4-hooved strange beasts. They had already set their eyes on Dongbua Shui Ying and the other 2. They were rushing over at high speed. The distance between the 2 sides was only 3,000 li. Uncle Fu was anxious. This was a large-scale control formation that could bind the enemy. Whether it was the real world, the Mirage realm, the shadow space, or so on. In short, it could permeate and bind all planes of the world. However, binding 139 Mirage creatures at the same time would also disperse the formation's power, reducing the speed of each Mirage creature by only 5%. If they were concentrated on 3 to 5 targets, their speed would probably be reduced by more than half. Unfortunately, reducing 3 to 5 would have a negligible effect on the overall situation. Was there any difference between being besieged by 139 Mirage creatures and being besieged by 136? There was no difference. Because the Mirage creatures were huge, they couldn't attack at the same time. Damn it. Uncle Fu's eyes were red with anger. Although he still had god-level scrolls on him, they were of no help. Hurry and leave. Persei, who was fleeing at high speed, urgently shouted. Manor Master, be careful. Uncle Fu clenched his teeth and crushed the talisman in his hand. Suddenly, an invisible force descended and enveloped Uncle Fu's body. Uncle Fu disappeared into thin air. He was completely transported out of Crimson Rock Mountain. As long as he left Crimson Rock Mountain, Uncle Fu would no longer be able to help. Although he could enter again according to the rules, Crimson Rock Mountain had its own rules. The interval between 2 attempts was at least 100 years. Secondly, the gifts and talismans obtained through the Meteor Bridge could only be obtained once. If he entered again in the future, he wouldn't be able to obtain gifts or talismans. Persei fled with all his might. Persei, only 800 li left. Dongbua Shui Ying transmitted from the side. He also fled together and didn't enter the Mirage. Because the 8-clawed monster was a Mirage creature, it made no difference whether he entered the Mirage or not. It's useless to escape. Let's fight. Persei stopped. Dongbua Shui Ying also stopped. They were affected by the golden threads and couldn't get rid of them. They could only face them head-on. They're coming. Dongbua Shui Ying opened his mouth. Bang! The gravity domain was immediately released. The laws of profound mysteries avoided Persei and didn't affect Persei. These transcendents actually dared to make a move against us. Human, don't struggle. Just obediently accept your death. The 8-clawed monster's voice seeped into the real world. At the same time, dark green tentacles attacked from all directions. In an instant, dozens of long tentacles transformed into phantoms and enveloped over. Persei revealed his 8 arms and carefully blocked the attacks from all directions. Dongbua Shui Ying was also wielding a spear. The 2 of them were only 3 to 5 meters apart from each other. The 8-clawed monster's body was rather large. Hence, they were able to squeeze together and besiege Dongbua Shui Ying and Persei. There were only a dozen 8-clawed monsters. Dongbua Shui Ying and Persei each took on the responsibility. Each of them received an estimated 7 to 8 attacks. Dongbua, you be careful. I can't take care of you. Persei waved his 8 arms with great difficulty and desperately blocked the attacks from all directions. His arms and palms became very large. They were like 8 shields that blocked almost all the attacks from all directions. However, those dark green tentacles that stretched out from nothingness, apart from whipping, would also entangle. Wanting to entangle Persei? Scram. Donghua Shuiying was slightly better. He could clearly observe every 8-clawed monster in the mirage. When they attacked, they were all under Donghua Shuiying's observation. Naturally, their reactions were faster. It was a pity. These 8-clawed monsters were rather large, but his gravity domain was not strong enough. Under the gravitational repulsion, their speed was probably only reduced by 10%. However, every 8-clawed monster had 8 tentacles. He could only see dozens of long tentacles surrounding him from the mirage and besieging him. Persei couldn't help him either. Boom. Pong. Donghua Shuiying used his spear technique again and again. He only used Star Meteor Annihilation once before he was besieged by the tentacles from all directions, forcing him to not dare to use it. This was because Star Meteor Annihilation wasn't coherent enough. He had to use moves that didn't seem to have any pauses. For example, the lightning fast extreme piercing. He had to use it again and again to block the attacks from all directions. However, even so, in less than half a second, pong, a tentacle broke through the defense of the spear, and the soft tentacle whipped Donghua Shuiying's back. A surge of power, the power of a deity, caused Donghua Shuiying to be thrown forward uncontrollably. In front of him was a dense mass of tentacles that quickly enveloped him. Donghua Persei, who had 8 arms, was still barely holding on. Seeing this scene, he couldn't help but feel anxious and pained. Chapter 1. Chapter 328. Ha Dai Dai. The eyes of the lords of Ulan, who was standing on the core vine in the distance, lit up with excitement and anticipation. He asked himself if he was in such a dangerous situation, even if there were 3 or 5 of him, the only result would be death, let alone him. The lords of Ulan suddenly frowned, because Donghua Shuiying, who had been smashed and thrown forward by the tentacles, had actually disappeared into thin air. He entered the mirage. The lords of Ulan frowned. It's useless to enter the mirage. These 8-tentacled mirage creatures, their strength is not affected in the mirage. Unfortunately, I won't be able to see how you die. Inside the mirage, the 8-tentacled monsters that had originally surrounded Donghua Shuiying, as well as some of their own kind, looked at the human that had appeared in the mirage in shock. This human had also run into the mirage. Donghua Shuiying's palm instantly slashed the blade of the spear, leaving a smear of dark red. Donghua Shuiying had already been forced into a desperate situation. He could not think of any other way. Entering the mirage, you'll also die. Immediately, a group of 8-tentacled monsters continued to besiege him. One after another, dark cyan tentacles enveloped him from all directions. Every tentacle's speed was extremely fast. Even if it was Shuiying, even with his extremely fast extreme piercing, a single spear wouldn't be able to defend against so many tentacles. Pooh! 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 The spear turned into a mirage, dotted with cold stars. Every time it stabbed the tentacles that surrounded him, it would only break the skin, and the damage to their bodies was negligible. But woo! Woo! One by one, the 8-tentacled monsters howled in pain. It was too painful. As long as one of the tentacles was stabbed, it would cause the 8-tentacled monster so much pain that the other tentacles would also shrink back. They all began to roll around, swinging around randomly. Although the voodoo poison in his blood was much weaker, it was still terrifying to know that Donghua Shuiying was poisoned to the point that his soul trembled in pain. Even with Lord Yulan's temperament, when he was first stabbed, he cried out in pain. Upon seeing this, Donghua Shuiying hurriedly started to attack the 8-tentacled monsters that were surrounding Persei. The cold light of the spear tip carried a trace of dark red, making the 8-tentacled monsters howl every time. In the real world, Persei, who was on the verge of collapsing, was bewildered. This was because the number of tentacles reaching out of the ethereal extent to attack him had decreased greatly. Persei, quick! Run toward the core vine. These mirage creatures are affected by the pain caused by the voodoo poison, but it won't be long before they get used to it. Dongbua Shueing transmitted his voice. Xiao! While he was transmitting his voice, he hurriedly rushed toward the core long vine and smeared some of his blood on the spear's edge. But there were a total of 139 eight-tentacles monsters. The other 8-tentacled monsters that were not attacked also roared and attacked. Dongbua Shueing still attacked again and again, using the weaker extreme piercing. But this was enough. One by one, the 8-tentacled monsters tasted the pain of the voodoo poison. After all, they were also made of flesh and blood, not deity realm warriors and the like. Under the penetration of the voodoo poison, they instantly howled. Damned human! What poison is this? Kill him. The pain could not be reduced, but the 8-tentacled monsters quickly adapted. After all, they were also creatures that had reached the deity realm. Pain. At least they could still continue fighting. This kind of pain also filled them with even more hatred and killing intent. Dongbua Shueing worked hard and only managed to stab 110 8-tentacle monsters. The 8-tentacled monsters that were stabbed the earliest adapted and attacked again. So fast. Dongbua Shueing also knew that they would adapt very quickly. Back then, the Lords of Ulan had adapted in an instant. Not only was Dongbua Shueing attacked again, but Persei, who had started to flee, was also attacked again, because there was no Dongbua Shueing to help him share the burden. More than a dozen 8-tentacled monsters besieged him at the same time. Over 100 long, dark green tentacles covered the sky and covered the earth as they besieged him. Persei also revealed a look of despair. Bang, bang, bang. His 8 arms were perfect for defense, but a large number of tentacles entangled him from all directions again and again, like a large net. Persei was struggling, trying hard to break through, but this time, the tentacles were almost twice as many as before. Just a second later, chi. A large number of tentacles completely wrapped him up, densely packed. They formed a ball of entangled tentacles. Persei was completely wrapped inside. It's over. Persei was in despair. Although he had the deity armor, and these 8-tentacled monsters could not break his defense, he would not die. But he would be brought to the lair of these monsters. In a lair of so many monsters, he could not escape at all. If he could not escape, he would not be able to pass the test of the first Vine Leaf world. There was a time limit for a world deity to let him come down, because it would not be long before the sorcerer god and the great demon god would start a war. At that time, they would no longer have the chance to enter Crimson Rock Mountain. This time they had to succeed. It's over. Persei could not resist. He felt that he was completely trapped. It seemed that these 8-tentacled monsters were grabbing him and moving him. Persei is finished. The Lords of Ulan, who was standing on the core vine, saw that Persei was finally completely bound by the tentacles and dragged into the mirage. He revealed a look of joy. Only Dongbua Shueing is left. With so many mirage creatures, he won't be able to hold on for long. But the Lords of Ulan also knew that Dongbua Shueing was still holding on, because he could feel the fluctuations of the battle within the mirage. Inside the mirage, Dongbua Shueing was indeed holding on. Pooh! The long spear pierced the tentacles that besieged him. Woo! The 8-tentacled monsters immediately howled, although they were already suffering from this pain. When they were pierced again, Dongbua Shueing's blood that contained voodoo poison seeped in, causing the concentration of the poison in the bodies of these 8-tentacled monsters to increase. Naturally, the pain was also intensifying. Therefore, although they were all getting angrier, but under the attack of Dongbua Shueing's long spear, the 8-tentacled monsters were also affected. The power of my poison is still weaker. Every time I use it, the effect on the battle will be lower and lower. Dongbua Shueing was extremely anxious. I can't lose, I can't. I promised Jing Xiao that I will definitely return. Xia clan, it won't be long before war breaks out. I can't lose, I can't. When Dongbua Shui Ying saw Percy I being tied up and dragged into the mirage after being defeated, he understood that he would only be in a worse state if he lost because he didn't have a deity armor. True meaning of star and true meaning of mirage. As long as I break through, one, I will have hope. Dongbua Shui Ying was incomparably anxious. At this moment, while he was crazily executing his extreme piercing, his mind was trying hard to recall the scene of creation of heaven and earth. He was forcefully suppressing the influence of the six ghosts, resentment, voodoo, poison in his body, and thinking of ways to deduce the true meaning of star and true meaning of mirage. He had to break through. If he didn't break through, he would die. Pong! A tentacle broke through his defense and whipped Dongbua Shui Ying's body. Dongbua Shui Ying flew backwards and immediately thrusted his spear with lightning speed, piercing the tentacle that wanted to wrap around him. Ayo! That eight-tentacled monster immediately howled, and its entire body trembled. However, it quickly attacked again. Fortunately, Uncle Fu had previously used the deity grade scrolls to enhance his defense on himself. Otherwise, under the direct attack of a deity grade power, even if he didn't die, he would still be seriously injured. After a few more attacks, he would be finished. Star, Mirage, Dongbua Shui Ying was about to go crazy from anxiety. In his mind, there was the scene of the birth of the entire world when the Crimson Rock Mountain's owner pointed out with a finger. There were plants, flowers, birds, and beasts in that world. When he thought of that incomparably vast and thick land, Dongbua Shui Ying's heart suddenly moved. Boom! The true meaning of star, which was originally on the surface of his body, suddenly condensed, and the surrounding gravity domain's power also abruptly increased. The powerful gravitational force instantly swept across all the eight-tentacled monsters surrounding him. Their bodies were originally large, and it was just that the gravity domain's power was weak before, but it still reduced their speed by 10%. But now that the gravity domain had suddenly increased, it caused the surrounding group of eight-tentacled monsters to stop their bodies, and their speed suddenly slowed down. The true meaning of star has broken through. Dongbua Shui Ying was so excited that he was about to cry. At the moment of life and death, he actually broke through. The heavens don't want me to die. The heavens don't want me to die. The second watch had arrived. There was still the third watch. Chapter 329. His true meaning of star and true meaning of mirage had long reached the peak of the Stage 2 realm. After watching creation of heaven and earth, he had gained many insights and felt that he could break through at any time. However, this at any time was uncontrollable. Dongbua Shui Ying didn't dare to say that he could break through whenever he wanted to. The temporal temple forces the reincarnators to break through at the edge of life and death. Even though it is cruel, but under the pressure of life and death, it is indeed easier to break through. Dongbua Shui Ying was also rejoicing. Just now, he was in an incomparably anxious situation. In the face of death, his life instinctively burst forth with the strongest desire to survive. Even the influence of the hex poison rapidly decreased. At that time, the speed at which his brain deduced true meanings had soared. Even without the hex poison's influence, his brain's deduction speed wouldn't have been this fast. This was the state of being forced by the edge of life and death. It is easier to break through under the pressure of life and death. However, it is better to avoid such situations. Dongbua Shui Ying didn't like this feeling of despair. The gravity domain repelled all the eight-tentacled monsters. Every single one of their movements was repelled by the gravity, causing their speed to decrease by another 20 to 30%. Kill. The spear in Dongbua Shui Ying's hand rotated. With the aura of destruction, the whirlpool of gravity on the spear became stronger. After converging into a point, it became even more natural. Its speed also increased. With a flash, the spear tip stabbed into a dark green tentacle. The terrifying, profound mysteries of destruction contained within this spear was immediately transmitted to the entire body. Who? The huge eight-tentacled monster instantly turned into ashes before dissipating into nothingness. Star meteor annihilation. A single spear kill. Previously, Dongbua Shuang had always been pondering over his secret skill. However, he hadn't perfected it. After his true meaning of star and true meaning of extreme piercing reached the stage 3 realm, their coordination was very smooth. Everything was very natural. Even though it wasn't perfect, it was sufficient. This attack was stronger than before, and the laws of profound mysteries were similarly higher. It could be said that among the lords of Ulan, Persei, and the Meishan master, Dongbua Shui Ying spear techniques were the most terrifying. Boom, boom, boom. The speed of star meteor annihilation was close to that of extreme piercing. The 8-tentacled monsters were even slower under the gravity. Moreover, every time the spear was released, a monster would die, and the 8 tentacles would all disappear. Naturally, Dongbua Shuang felt much more relaxed. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The spear flew. The surrounding 8-tentacled monsters were annihilated one after another, scaring the other 8-tentacle mirage life forms into a daze. Run, run, run. The 8-tentacle mirage creatures began to flee in panic. You want to escape? At this moment, Dongbua Shui Ying's gravity domain reversed and produced a strong gravitational force that slowed down their escape speed. Persei, Dongbua Shui Ying charged straight at the 8-tentacle mirage creatures that were binding Persei. Seeing Dongbua Shui Ying chasing after them, those 8-tentacle mirage creatures were very intelligent. They immediately understood that this white-clothed human wanted to save their companion. Without hesitation, they released their tentacles, and the bound Persei was released. Those 8-tentacled mirage creatures fled in all directions. Only then did Dongbua Shuang stop chasing. What's going on? Persei looked at his surroundings in a daze. He had already been expelled from the mirage realm and returned to the real world. His surroundings were empty, and far away was the core vine. The lords of Ulan, who stood on the core vine, also had a look of astonishment on their faces. Whoosh! A white-clothed figure walked out of the void. It was Dongbua Shuang. Dongbua, it's you? Persei was slightly excited. I was lucky to have broken through at the moment of life and death. How lucky? Dongbua Shui Ying felt incomparably lucky. He felt like he had just survived a calamity. Ha ha, this is also my luck. Persei could not hide his excitement. Previously, he was in despair and thought that he was finished. This time, he had failed the mission. Even if he relied on his armor to hold on, the moment he reached the time limit set by the oath he made with the world deity, he would die even if he hid in the deepest part of the dark abyss, let alone hiding in the Crimson Rock Mountain. Dongbua Shui Ying and Persei turned their heads to look at the distant core vine. Looking at the lords of Ulan, their eyes were filled with killing intent. Ulan, their killing intent sword. Almost both of them were finished. Not only would they have died, but the Flying Sword Villa and the Xia people behind them would also have suffered great losses. Ulan died. Dongbua Shui Ying growled and immediately turned into a stream of light. Persei did the same. They actually didn't die. They actually didn't die. They survived the encirclement of 139 mirage creatures. The lords of Ulan could not believe the scene in front of them. Persei had been expelled from the mirage, and even Dongbua Shui Ying had walked out of the mirage. When Persei and Dongbua Shui Ying looked over with killing intent, they both rushed over. Without hesitation, the lords of Ulan flew along the long vine. They flew in the direction of the second vine leaf world. Persei couldn't fight in the mirage at all. It seems like Dongbua Shui Ying had dealt with those mirage creatures. He wasn't strong enough at all. Could he have broken through? The lords of Ulan gritted their teeth in anger. They knew that it would be difficult for the rest of them to break through. This was because they all wanted to enter the deity heart realm from the peak of the 3rd stage. This step was like a natural chasm, and Dongbua Shui Ying was the easiest to break through among them. We didn't kill him, but he actually became stronger. The Lords of Ulan was furious. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Although he was furious, he was running for his life at the fastest speed possible. Dongbua, Shui, Ying, and Percy I were still surrounded by golden threads. Although their power had been reduced, the Lords of Ulan had already run far away by the time they reached the core of the long vine. Moreover, his speed was even faster than Dongbua, Shui, Ying, and Percy I. They were destined to get further and further away from each other. Forget it. We can't catch up, Percy I said. This scourge must be eliminated, Dongbua, Shui said. Amen. If there's a chance, we must eliminate him. Otherwise, he might even plot against us. Percy I nodded, but don't worry. In a vine leaf world, it will be harder for him to plot against us. When Dongbua Shui Ying thought of the later trials, he couldn't help but nod. Let's go and take a look at the lair of those 8 tentacled monsters. Dongbua Shui Ying's eyes were filled with anticipation. He pointed at the belly of a low mountain about 1,300 kilometers away. It's there. Ha. Previously, there was only one 8-tentacled monster, but there were 2 deity weapons and a deity warrior. This time, the threat is much greater than before. There will definitely be more fortuitous encounters and treasures. Percy I was also looking forward to it, but don't be anxious. Let's wait for the shackles around us to dissipate first. Amen, Dongbua Shui nodded. The golden threads were getting weaker and weaker. Dongbua Shui Ying and Percy I's true meaning surged on the surface of their bodies, weakening it time and time again. I'll let my mirage doppelganger check. Dongbua Shui Ying looked in that direction. With a thought, a mirage doppelganger that looked exactly the same as Dongbua Shui Ying appeared at the entrance of the belly of the mountain and walked in. Hong. Some of the 8 tentacled monsters that had escaped back to their lairs saw the white-robed young man walking in again. Instantly, they fled in fright. Through the mirage, they rushed out of their lair. There were actually a total of 155 mirage creatures in this lair. Previously, when they went to chase after Dongbua Shui Ying, there were still some left in the lair. Now that they knew how powerful Dongbua Shui Ying was, they didn't want to fight anymore. Because once they did, they would be killed in one shot. The powerful life force that they were so proud of was completely useless. There are actually so many of them. Dongbua Shui Ying was also shocked. Counting them, there were originally more than 200 mirage creatures in this mountain. Very soon, the golden threads on his body dissipated completely. Let's go. Dongbua Shui Ying and Percy I immediately walked over. Very soon, they arrived at the entrance of the belly of the mountain. Outside the belly of the mountain, Dongbua Shui Ying left behind 3 mirage life forms. They spread out and monitored every direction. The 2 of them walked into the belly of the mountain. The belly of the mountain was empty. It was very big, about 5 to 6 li in area. There were some plants and wildflowers growing inside. There were also some flowing streams. And in a corner of the belly of the mountain, there was a piece of crystal jade floating in midair. Dongbua Shui Ying and Percy I's gazes fell on the floating crystal jade in the distance. I won't be going. Percy I smiled. No matter how thick-skinned he was, he couldn't possibly get involved at this moment. He was already very lucky to be able to survive this time. It was impossible for him to split the treasures. Of course, if Dongbua Shui Ying didn't need it, and Dongbua Shui Ying took the initiative to give it to him, he would still be willing to accept it. Chapter 330. It was impossible for Dongbua Shui Ying to reject it. This was a treasure guarded by over 200 mirage creatures. Even if he did not have Transcendent Battle Chi and could not use it, it would still be good to send it back to the Xia people. Who knows, it might even be of great use in the upcoming war. Who? Dongbua Shui Ying walked to a corner of the mountain and took in a deep breath. He extended his hand towards the crystal jade. Cautiously, he did not touch it directly with his palm. Instead, he used the heaven and earth energy to wrap around the crystal jade. However, suddenly, a beam of light shot out from the crystal jade and tunneled into Dongbua Shui Ying's forehead. This caused Dongbua Shui Ying to jump in fright. He wanted to dodge, but it was too late. Even with the deity tier scrolls on him and the green armored protector, he was unable to block this beam of light. Blood-creeping flower, the companion plant of the sky-reaching vine. It is an innate deity tier plant life form. The crystal jade contains a seed of the blood-creeping flower. As long as the crystal jade is refined and the seed is released, the seed will be able to absorb the heaven and earth energy and grow. When it is born, it will be comparable to a demigod. In 100 years, it will be able to reach the deity tier. In 1,000 years, it will be able to reach the deity tier. In 10,000 years, it will be able to reach the deity tier. In 100,000 years, it will be able to reach the peak of the deity tier. This is the perfect matured body. If you feed it with origin stones, deity crystals, flesh, and corpses, it will be able to accelerate its growth. The detailed method to nurture it, the method to control it, combat proficiency, a large amount of information appeared in his mind. Donghua Shui Ying's eyes shone with excitement. Countless thoughts appeared in his mind. As long as he nurtured this blood-creeping flower properly, it could allow the Xia people to have another deity tier combat power when the war broke out. Furthermore, as a deity tier plant life form, it would be much harder to deal with than ordinary deities. Its life force was much stronger. Refined. Donghua Shui Ying immediately sent a strand of his soul energy into the crystal jade. Runes appeared on the surface of the crystal jade, and the crystal jade gradually turned transparent, revealing a black seed in the center. The black seed began to awaken, and green roots began to grow on its surface. There were even green leaves on the surface. These tender leaves rapidly absorbed the surrounding energy. Chi, chi, chi. The crystal jade rapidly shrank, and was soon devoured by the green vines on the black seed. Hoo. The surrounding heaven and earth energy surged, and the green leaves on the green vine began to grow. The green leaves swayed, and the green vine continued to grow. The black seed gradually withered, and finally it completely turned into powder. In the blink of an eye, a beautiful red flower bud began to grow on the green vine's many leaves. Be good, come here. Donghua Shui Ying smiled and stretched out his right hand. The blood-creeping flower that was floating in midair instantly flew into Donghua Shui Ying's palm. It then obediently coiled around Donghua Shui Ying's wrist, shrinking rapidly like a vine's bracer. Although it had turned into a wrist guard, it was still constantly absorbing the energy of the world. This is the blood-creeping flower. Persei walked over as well, and was incomparably shocked. As expected of the almighty existence of the god realm, this is too extravagant. This treasure is a god-tier plant life form. I heard that plant life forms usually have to be refined and controlled from the seed stage. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to control them when they grow. Amen. Donghua Shui Ying nodded and revealed a smile. That's right. I was only able to control this blood-creeping flower after refining that crystal jade. A blood-creeping flower. A single blood-creeping flower can be exchanged for 3 to 5 peak stage deity slaves. Persei sighed. So expensive? Donghua Shui Ying was shocked. When it matures, it will only be a peak stage deity. It's different. This refined plant life form is absolutely loyal, and it can transform into a plant armor to protect itself. Naturally, its value is much higher than a peak stage deity slave. Those slaves, although they were forced to be slaves, they might seem obedient, but they might be harboring hatred in their hearts. Who knows, one day, they might even self-detonate to harm their master. This isn't impossible. Persei said. How can it be as reassuring as a plant life form? Donghua Shui Ying nodded. It's a pity. Donghua, if you didn't refine it, this crystal jade seed could be sold to the outside world. Persei said, it's not impossible to get those major powers to send an antidote for the 6 ghost grudge into the mortal world. It's a pity that you've already refined it. This blood-creeping flower has already begun to grow, and it will be hard for it to recognize a new master. Donghua Shui Ying was speechless. Exchange for the antidote? It could be exchanged for 3 to 5 peak stage deity slaves. Among all the ancestors of the Xia people, only 3 had reached the peak stage deity level. Even if they sold all their treasures, they wouldn't be able to afford this seed. Crimson Rock Mountain, as a treasure left behind by a powerful existence, a single strand of hair from it would be thicker than the thighs of those deities. Forget it. Dongbo Shui shook his head. Since I've already refined it, forget it. Moreover, it would be of great help in the war between the sorcerer god and the great demon god. Even if he died from the hex poison, before he died, he could still order the blood-creeping flower to protect the Xia people. It's good that you're able to accept it. Moreover, Dongbo, your strength is constantly improving. Who knows, with our group, you might be able to successfully pass through the 5 vine leaf worlds of the sky-reaching vine. Percy I sighed. Anyway, I'll just try my best. Dongbo Shuang said. However, it was different from before. Previously, Dongbo Shuang was prepared to risk his life. If he didn't get the antidote, he would rather die along the way. However, now that he had obtained the blood-creeping flower, Dongbo Shuang felt that if he really couldn't do it, he would crush the talisman and leave at the very last moment. Because he had to bring the blood-creeping flower out. Hoo-hoo. On the core long vine. Dongbo Shuang and Percy I followed the core long vine, transforming into 2 streams of light as they flew at high speed. All right, Dongbo, you've been talking about the war between the sorcerer god and the great demon god. Do you know when the war will start? Percy I asked. I don't know. Dongbo Shuang shook his head. However, the clone of the great demon god that our Xia people destroyed was almost perfect. Therefore, I'm guessing that they are well prepared and could start the war at any time. Shunjiu smiled. I can tell you a piece of information. Dongbo Shuang looked at him. The war should start 20 years later. Percy I said. I don't dare to confirm the exact time, but it should start 20 years later. 20 years later? Dongbo Shuang was shocked. Why do you say so? Percy I said. You should know that I was ordered to enter the Xia people's world by a great universe deity. Back then, I made an oath with him, stating that I must enter the Crimson Rock Mountain within 20 years of entering the Xia people's world. Moreover, that universe deity also instructed me not to delay. Once the war starts, the Crimson Rock Mountain will be completely surrounded by the sorcerer god and the great demon god. I won't have the chance to enter anymore. Since he ordered me to enter within 20 years, I estimate that the war will start 20 years later. Moreover, it's not just me. The other teams are also coming. I reckon that the universe deity or great demon god level existence behind them have already found some information. Percy I said. Dongbo Shuang nodded his head solemnly. The ancestors of the Xia people were only deities after all. In terms of information gathering, they could not compare to those universe deities. After all, according to Percy I and the others, the difference between a deity and a universe deity was like the difference between a mortal and a transcendent. 20 years. Dongbo Shuang had many thoughts in his mind. Dongbo Shuang and Percy I flew all the way. Soon, he flew along the core of the long vine to the main trunk of the sky-reaching vine and continued to fly upwards. After flying for 8 days, they finally reached the second vine leaf world. Along the way, Dongbo Shuang and Percy I had been rushing, trying to catch up to the Lords of Ulan. Unexpectedly, they did not find them. The Lords of Ulan escaped pretty quickly. Percy I said coldly, the second vine leaf world. I don't believe he can escape. Dongbo Shuang said. First update. Chapter 331. Let's join forces as soon as possible and eliminate him. Percy I didn't hide his killing intent. The ambush from the Lords of Ulan had almost killed them both. We must eliminate him. Dongbo Shuang's eyes were filled with killing intent as well. The Lords of Ulan had set up a trap in such a dangerous place like the first vine leaf world. It was clear how strong their desire for revenge was. If the Lords of Ulan had become protector disciples and left Crimson Rock Mountain alive, they wouldn't have left for the Dark Abyss so easily. They might have taken revenge on the Xia people and massacred them. Congratulations, you're still alive. The green-haired Shiwei suddenly appeared on the main branch beside them. Senior Shiwei, Donghua Shui Ying and Persei bowed respectfully. This is the second vine leaf world. Shiwei looked down at the vast second vine leaf world. You should know the rules. In the second vine leaf world, there are patrolling mountain beasts in the mountains. Every transcendent will be attacked by a patrolling mountain beast. If you stay in the second vine leaf world for more than 10 days, you will be attacked by 2 patrolling mountain beasts at the same time. If you stay for more than a month, you will be attacked by 5 patrolling mountain beasts. To be able to survive the attacks of 5 patrolling mountain beasts, you won't be in danger no matter how long you stay in the second vine leaf world. Of course, killing each other between transcendents doesn't count, Shiwei explained. Understood. Donghua Shui Ying and Persei nodded. They already knew the rules. The first and second vine leaf worlds will unearth your potential. Make good use of this opportunity and increase your strength. Shiwei smiled and merged into the main branch. Whoosh whoosh. Donghua Shui Ying and Persei swooped down and landed at the edge of the giant vine leaf world. Donghua, Uncle Fu has already crushed his talisman and left Crimson Rock Mountain. We can no longer use God tier scrolls. Persei said, facing the patrolling mountain beasts will be troublesome. Are you sure we should move together? Of course we'll go together. This way, when we meet the Lords of Ulan, we'll be more confident in killing him. Donghua Shuang said, as for the patrolling mountain beast, even though I don't have a deity tier scroll anymore, my true meaning of star has already broken through to the grade 3 realm. Thus, my gravity domain is effective against it. Persei revealed a happy expression. Good, this true meaning of stars is really balanced. It could be of some use in any dangerous situation. Donghua Shuang nodded. True meaning. Some are extreme, some are balanced. Mirage and extreme piercing were both extreme techniques. Just like Persei's true meaning of only me, it was also very extreme, completely improving one's body. As for the true meaning of star, it was very balanced. First of all, its defense was strong, and so was its strength. Of course, pure strength wasn't that effective when attacking. The true meaning of star could only be considered average in terms of offense. Moreover, it also had a domain-type gravity domain. Gravity was a very effective, large-scale domain. The greater the mass, the better the effect of the gravity domain. With this true meaning of star, it was indeed very comprehensive. This was especially so for the true meaning of star and extreme piercing, which combined to form the star meteor annihilation. This secret skill was truly perfect. It possessed both extreme strength and terrifying destructive profound mysteries. The second vine leaf world was a vast mountain range that stretched on endlessly. Donghua Shui Ying and Persei arrived at the entrance of a huge canyon. To enter the second vine leaf world, they had to follow this canyon until they reached the end. The Maishan Master's team is the fastest. They are 1 day ahead of us, Persei said. As for Yulan, he shouldn't be much faster than us. We might even be able to catch up to him. Chase. Donghua Shuang nodded. So. The two of them immediately followed the canyon. More than 2 hours after they entered the canyon, a figure walked out from a cave in a distant mountain. It was a barefooted, black-skinned youth wrapped in white cloth. He looked at the entrance of the canyon from afar, his eyes filled with mockery and coldness. 2 idiots. They still want to chase after me, but they don't know that I'm right behind them. No matter how hard you chase, you won't be able to catch up to me. Only then did the Lords of Ulan slowly walk towards the canyon. Of course, he also released his time deceleration domain to check on the enemy. This canyon ran through the entire mountain range, all the way to the end. It was about 9 million kilometers long. Hoo. Donghua Shui Ying and Persei were extremely fast. Along the way, they saw various patterns on the walls of the canyon. Sometimes, they couldn't help but stop to take a look. However, they still managed to cover 1 million kilometers in just an hour. On the grassy field in front of the cliff, the Maishan Master, the white-robed girl, and the black-robed man were looking at the cliff. They were comprehending and pondering. There were some sword art patterns on the cliff. Dongbua Shuang, Persei, you guys are really fast. The Maishan master turned to look at Dongbua, Ying, and the others. He took a step forward and walked out of the grassy field where they were comprehending. That was because the flow of time in that grassy field was very fast. In this second vine leaf world, there were many places where the flow of time was very fast. This way, the Transcendents could use the flow of time to have more time to slowly comprehend. For example, after 10 days, they would be attacked by 2 patrolling mountain beasts. If the flow of time was 10 times faster, 10 days would be equivalent to 100 days. After all, staying for more than 10 days was the normal time in the outside world. The Maishan master laughed. I arrived at the second vine leaf world a day earlier than you guys. How did you catch up so quickly? Why? There were many cliffs on the way, and there were many seniors' profound mysteries, fist arts, spear arts, sword arts, saber arts, and so on. Didn't you guys comprehend them? There's no rush. Persei laughed. Let's chase after the lords of Ulan and kill Yulan first. Then, we can slowly comprehend them. Right, Maishan master, did you see the lords of Ulan? Dongbua Shuang asked. The Maishan master shook his head. I didn't see him. He definitely isn't here. If he was here, I would have definitely discovered him. Dongbua Shuang and Persei looked at each other. He's behind us, Dongbua Shuang said. The lords of Ulan must know that we are chasing after him. Therefore, when he arrived at the second vine leaf world, he wasn't in a hurry to enter the canyon. Instead, he should be hiding somewhere in the mountains. He probably saw us enter the canyon before entering. What do we do now? Persei asked. Do we return and kill him? There's no rush. Dongbua Shuang shook his head. Who knows how long the lords of Ulan have been hiding in the mountains? He will eventually enter the canyon. We just need to slowly cultivate and wait for him to enter the trap. Persei nodded and laughed. Yes, I saw a few interesting places just now, but I didn't stop to cultivate. Let's go. Let's go back and take a look. Dongbua Shuang was also itching to go. Thanks. We'll be leaving first. Dongbua Shuang and Persei immediately bid farewell to the Maishan master. The two turned and left. They talked about the cliff carvings they had seen before. Soon, they chose a place that both of them were interested in and stopped after walking for hundreds of thousands of kilometers. They lifted their heads to look at the cliff. On the cliff, there was a pattern made of countless lines. It looked like a massive crater of a volcano. Countless spheres were flying out of the crater, each of which carried a destructive aura. The crater of the volcano was so deep that they couldn't see the bottom. It seemed to contain the source of all destruction. Shuang and Chinjiu immediately searched for the region in front of the cliff where the flow of time was the fastest. That region was next to a stream, where the flow of time was estimated to be 9 times that of normal. Kid, just absorb as much as you want. Dongbua Shuang looked at the blood-creeping flower wristband on his wrist. Apparently, the wristband was absorbing heaven and earth energy. Dongbua Shuang and Persei calmed down and lifted their heads to watch. Of course, Dongbua Shuang also sent a part of his consciousness to monitor the surroundings with his mirage. Persei also used the true meaning of 8 dragons to check the surrounding 10,000 miles. If the lords of Ulan came, they could attack them. This feeling of destruction. Dongbua Shuang looked at the crater of the volcano on the cliff. It was as though he could feel the aura of the extreme point that represented the beginning of everything. He couldn't help but feel it carefully. Occasionally, he would move his fingers to test out his thoughts. The second update arrived. Chapter 332. About 15,000 kilometers into the canyon. The black-skinned teenager, the Lords of Ulan, had his arms crossed in front of his chest. He was frowning as he looked at the diagram on the cliff in front of him. It was a combination of sword and blade techniques. It should have been left behind by a senior from the deity world. Space-time. The Lords of Ulan narrowed his eyes. The sword represents time, while the blade represents space. To be able to unleash the power of space-time, even though it didn't fuse time and space into a complete temporal deity heart. But to be able to fuse two laws of profound mysteries so exquisitely is quite amazing. The eyes of the lords of Ulan were filled with desire. He could tell that this should be a secret skill created by a deity who had grasped hold of both the time and space deity hearts. Naturally, there would only be one true deity heart, but just like transcendence, they could comprehend many true meanings. Deities could also raise their true meanings to the deity heart realm, but in the end, they could only choose one true deity heart. For example, Donghua Shuang could raise his extreme piercing, star, and mirage to the deity heart realm, but to condense a true deity heart, he could only choose one. The moment he condensed a true deity heart, he would have to follow this path. The evolution of the deity heart would also follow this path. Of my two true meanings, one is a profound mystery related to time, while the other is mixed with profound mystery related to space. If I could comprehend one or two, I might be able to create a secret skill of my own. The eyes of the lords of Ulan were filled with desire. A secret skill. Donghua Shuiying's combat power was originally not that ridiculous, but after creating a secret skill, it allowed his combat power to explosively increase. If I can create a secret skill, there will be hope for me to pass through the sky-reaching vine. The lords of Ulan immediately began to carefully observe. Occasionally, they would close their eyes and rapidly deduce and perfect it in their minds. At another location, Donghua Shuiying and Persei stood by the riverbank, looking at the volcano erupting spheres on the cliff. A day had passed in the outside world, and the two were immersed in it. For those transcendents who had just started cultivating, they were usually forbidden from looking at the blade and spear techniques created by other transcendents. This was because they were worried that they would take a wrong path. However, after grasping the true meaning, one would naturally have their own path. Nothing will go wrong. However, there was always an exception. Even deities, or even world deity existences, would have doubts about their own cultivation path. In the end, their true deity hearts would collapse, and they would die. Of course, those were extremely rare, so it was best to choose a path that was close to one's own if one wanted to comprehend the experiences of their predecessors. So that's how it is. These experts of the deity world have walked much further than us transcendents in the field of laws and profound mysteries. The more Shuiying comprehended, the more he discovered things that made him sigh in admiration. His understanding of the extreme piercing deepened, and he couldn't help but wave his fingers. His fingers were like a spear, displaying the technique again and again. On the other side of the cliff behind Donghua Shuiying and Persei, two gigantic creatures suddenly appeared. Both of them looked like they were made from metal and stone. They were about 10 meters long, with 4 hooves and fangs. Its claws were strong and powerful. Who? The two of them suddenly rushed out, turning into 2 gusts of wind, terrifyingly fast. Be careful. Donghua Shuiying and Persei were constantly sensing their surroundings. Naturally, they were able to sense the 2 beasts at the first moment. However, they were still in a rush. So fast, I'm afraid they're moving at least 2,000 kilometers per second. Shuiying was startled by their speed. Since they were pouncing over from the cliff behind him, the distance was too close. Shuiying first released his gravity domain, causing the surging gravitational force to act on the 2 beasts that were more than 10 meters long and seemed to be cast from metal and stone, causing their speed to sharply decrease. However, they were still able to move at a speed of 1,500 to 1,500 kilometers per second. Donghua Shuiying disappeared and directly entered the mirage. Too fast. Persei immediately turned around and revealed his 8 arms. One of the beasts did not hesitate and clashed directly with Persei. The other beast that was originally charging towards Donghua Shuiying took a glance. Its gaze seemed to be able to see through the mirage and see Donghua Shuiying. However, it only changed its direction slightly and directly charged towards Persei. This was because once it entered the mirage, its strength would be affected. Thus, it would be better to work together and kill one of them first. This was also the reason why Dongbua, Shui Ying, and Persei were in danger together. These patrolling mountain beasts would work together to deal with one of them first. Pong! After colliding with the first beast, Chunjiu was sent flying. He turned into a beam of light and slammed into the cliff behind him, which was engraved with the crater of the volcano. Amidst the rumbling sound, the invisible barrier on the cliff blocked Chunjiu's attack. Chunjiu's entire body trembled, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. Dongbua, help me! Persei immediately shouted. He has a deity armor and a body that cultivates the true meaning of only me. Yet, he was hit to the point where he vomited blood? Dongbua Shui Ying was shocked within the mirage. He did not hesitate and immediately flew at high speed to intercept one of the patrolling mountain beasts. The second vine leaf world, there was only one type of danger, the patrolling mountain beasts. If one did not stay inside for more than 10 days, a transcendent would only be attacked by one patrolling mountain beast. As long as one won, the second vine leaf world would be considered to have been cleared. It sounded simple, but it was precisely because one only needed to deal with the patrolling mountain beasts. These patrolling mountain beasts were exceptionally terrifying. Only Persei, who had the deity armor, dared to face them head-on. If Dongbua Shui Ying knew about this, he would have long been frightened into hiding in the mirage. This was because if Dongbua Shui Ying were to face them head-on, he would probably die in a single exchange, even with the true meaning of star and the green armor protector. After all, no matter how powerful the green armor protector was, it could not compare to the deity armor. In fact, it was far from it. No matter how powerful the true meaning of star was, it could not compare to the true meaning of only me, which completely cultivated the body. If even Persei vomited blood, how could Dongbua Shui Ying still be alive? Persei, your body is strong. Try to resist more. Dongbua Shui Ying transmitted to him. He could tell that Persei's body had not been destroyed yet. You rascal. Persei leaned against the cliff, his 8 arms wrapped around him as he stared at the 2 patrolling mountain beasts. Come on, come on. Roar, roar. The 2 patrolling mountain beasts roared and once again transformed into a gust of wind as they charged forward. This time, Persei did not dare to face them head-on. Instead, he used his exquisite battle techniques to divert as much force as he could and endure for as long as possible. At the same time, he transmitted, Dongbua, I will draw the attention of the 2 of them. I will leave the offense to you. All right. Hua. A spear suddenly pierced out from the void, bringing with it the destructive aura of star meteor annihilation. However, that patrolling mountain beast was also able to see through the mirage. It swung its long tail and clashed directly with Dongbua Shui Ying's spear. This patrolling mountain beast truly has the strength of a sacred mountain. Dongbua Shui Ying saw that after the tail clashed with his spear, it was actually able to easily divert the force of the attack. How powerful was the star meteor annihilation? It was actually able to divert the force of the attack, just like that. And this is just a tail whip. If it was a frontal attack, his might would probably be on another level. Roar, although it managed to block the attack, the patrolling mountain beast still felt the pain. It turned to look at Dongbua Shui Ying in the mirage and let out a low roar. The other patrolling mountain beast also stopped attacking Persei. The 2 patrolling mountain beasts exchanged glances. Hoo-hoo. They leaped into the mirage at the same time. Both of them leaped into the mirage. Within the mirage, the 2 patrolling mountain beasts' every move was hindered. However, they were still too powerful. They actually managed to reach the mirage. Dongbua Shui Ying immediately released his gravity domain and tried his best to stop them. He couldn't help but be on high alert. Dongbua, can you hold on? If you can't, return to the real world. I'll help you. Persei transmitted his voice to him. I'll give a try first. There are only 2 patrolling mountain beasts. In 10 days, there will be 4 of them. In the end, there will be 10 of them. After dealing with 10 of them, We can cultivate here for a long time. Dongboy Shui Ying wielded his spear and looked at the two patrolling mountain beasts cautiously. The two patrolling mountain beasts were also staring at Dongboy Shui Ying. They had discovered that among the two transcendents, the one hiding in the mirage posed the greatest threat to them. That was why they came to kill him first. You want to deal with 4 of them? And 10 of them? Are you crazy? I won't go crazy with you. Percy I transmitted his voice to him. It's time for the 3rd break. I'll definitely finish the 5th break today. Let's wait and see tomorrow morning. Chapter 333. Within the mirage, the two patrolling mountain beasts stood in the air as they stared at Dongboy Shui Ying. Dongboy Shui Ying held a spear in his hand as he waited cautiously. He knew that his strength had increased by quite a bit. Furthermore, he was in the mirage, so he should be able to hold his ground against the two patrolling mountain beasts. This was also a good opportunity to train his spear arts. Whoosh! Whoosh! The two patrolling mountain beasts transformed into gusts of wind as they charged at Dongboy Shui Ying with terrifying speed. Even with the mirage and gravity domain hindering them, the two patrolling mountain beasts were still able to reach a speed of 1,300 to 400 kilometers per second. Although they were still faster than him, at least they were not as fast as 2,000 kilometers per second, which made it hard for him to react. Dongboy Shui Ying did not fight them head-on. Instead, every time the patrolling mountain beasts charged at him, he would immediately dodge. Their agility was indeed a weakness of the patrolling mountain beasts. Previously, Percy I had only managed to hold his ground because he had taken advantage of the patrolling mountain beast's weakness. His spear spun and stabbed out again and again, carrying with it the destructive aura of star meteor annihilation. Every spear strike would either pierce the patrolling mountain beast's abdomen or claws. The two sides continued to fight. The two patrolling mountain beasts coordinated with each other as they charged at Dongboy Shui Ying again and again. Their tails lashed out in a strange manner as well. Dongboy Shui Ying relied on his exquisite spear arts to hold on. His spear arts became increasingly ferocious, and his secret technique, star meteor annihilation, was slowly being perfected as he gained experience from actual combat. The fight continued for the time it took to brew a cup of tea. One of the two patrolling mountain beasts that had transformed into gusts of wind suddenly disintegrated into nothingness as it flew forward. The other patrolling mountain beast fought with Dongboy Shui Ying for another 10 rounds before it similarly dissipated. That felt good. Dongboy Shui Ying walked out of the mirage and returned to the real world. We won. Percy I asked. It was still very tiring. Dongboy Shui Ying chuckled. Fortunately, the patrolling mountain beasts aren't real life forms. As long as they receive a certain amount of damage, they will naturally disperse. The patrolling mountain beasts were a test set by the master of Crimson Rock Mountain, formed by the formation. It was just like the black armored guards formed by the Black Wind Deity Palace's arrays. The patrolling mountain beast had also been formed, just that it was more powerful. How about it? Are you still planning to deal with 4 of them? Percy I asked. In the mirage, it's hard for me to deal with 2 beasts. I should be able to deal with 3 patrolling mountain beasts, but I can't deal with 4. Dongboy Shui Ying said. However, in the real world, without the mirage's obstruction, the patrolling mountain beasts would be even stronger. I'm having a hard time dealing with 2 patrolling mountain beasts. With the help of your gravity domain, I won't have any problems dealing with 2 patrolling mountain beasts. I can even deal with 3. Percy I said, if you and I work together, we should be able to resist 4 of them. 10 definitely won't work. Dongboy Shui Ying nodded his head. We cannot stay in the Grand Canyon for more than a month. Percy I said, we've already stayed here for more than a day. Let's go to other places to take a look. There are many traces of Deity World seniors on the cliff walls of the Grand Canyon. At most, they cannot stay for more than a month. Dongboy Shui Ying and the others had to keep track of the time. The Lords of Ulan was the same. With the true meaning of time deceleration, he could deal with 1 patrolling mountain beast without any problems. With the help of the deity Great Scroll, he could deal with 2. However, he definitely could not deal with 5. Thus, he also had to pass through the Grand Canyon within a month. He was also comprehending and cultivating in various places, gradually advancing. On the 8th day in the Grand Canyon, Mishan Master, where are your companions? Dongbua Shui Ying and Persei met the Mishan Master again. The Mishan Master, who was sitting cross-legged on a huge rock, shook his head and said, Shan Xian and Yin Qing have already crushed their talismans and left. I thought that I could protect them against the 3 patrolling mountain beasts. However, the patrolling mountain beasts are too fast, and their tales are too strange and unpredictable. I really cannot protect them. The 2 of them could only crush their talismans and leave. You still want to protect them against 3 patrolling mountain beasts? I'm impressed. Persei teased. Speaking of which, the only ones left in Crimson Rock Mountain are me, Dongbua Yu Ken Huang, and the Lords of Alon. The Mishan Master nodded. Only Wu Ma Hai died in the first Vine Leaf world. The rest of us are still alive. However, the first and second Vine Leaf worlds are meant to unearth the potential of transcendence. It's not too dangerous. From the 3rd Vine Leaf world onwards, it's getting more and more dangerous. Dongbua Shui Ying sighed inwardly. There were indeed fewer and fewer transcendents in Crimson Rock Mountain. Now, there are only 5 left. Furthermore, he and Persei wanted to kill Yulan. Once they succeeded, there would only be 4 left. The 3rd Vine Leaf world, the 4th Vine Leaf world, the 5th Vine Leaf world. At that time, how many would be able to reach the 5th Vine Leaf world? How many would be able to pass through the entire sky-reaching vine and reach a higher dimension? Or perhaps, not a single one? Let's go. Dongbua Shui Ying and Persei continued forward. Whenever they encountered a cliff wall that could help them, they would stop for a short while. Only when they encountered something that could help both of them would they stop for a longer period of time. On the 11th day in the Great Canyon, Dongbua Shui Ying and Persei looked at the cliff wall in front of them in shock. The top of the cliff wall was completely white. Below the cliff wall, there was only darkness. In the middle of the cliff wall, there was a saber mark. Dongbua Shui Ying looked at the huge saber mark in the middle of the cliff wall. He could even imagine that a long time ago, an unimaginably powerful existence had casually pulled out a saber from its sheath and slashed horizontally, leaving such a saber mark on the cliff wall. Once the saber mark appeared, the cliff itself would naturally change. Extreme piercing? This saber strike contains all the rules I can imagine. This saber strike contains all the power of all things in the world. It has already turned into an extreme point. Stars? With one strike, heaven and earth are born. Compared to heaven and earth, the stars are simply insignificant. Mirage? How can the mirage compare to this complete world? Dongbua Shui Ying was completely shocked. In his opinion, this saber strike was even comparable to the feeling he got when he looked at the Genesis splitter imprint. Of course, that was when he looked at the imprint, so the feeling was even more intense. In front of him, there was only a saber mark. Beside him, Persei was also completely infatuated. This was too incredible. This kind of saber technique was simply unimaginable. Without hesitation, the 2 of them chose the area where the time flow was the fastest. The time flow was at least 15 times faster than normal. Persei sat on the grass, while Dongbua Shui Ying stood beside him. He could not help but take out his stellar fire cloud spear and practice from time to time. The 2 of them were infatuated. In their opinion, the saber mark in front of them was much more profound than the carvings on the cliff wall. In the 2nd Vine Leaf world, there was a chain of mountains. At the peak of the mountains, there was an old man with white hair and a youthful face. His body was rather thin, and his white hair fluttered in the wind. His face was as red as a baby's. His eyes were very bright. He looked down and saw the infatuated Dongbua Shui Ying and Persei. Persei sat cross-legged and muttered subconsciously. Dongbua Shui Ying wielded his spear and performed again and again. These 2 little fellows, the old man with white hair, shook his head. They are practically dancing with joy when they see this saber technique. This saber technique must have been left behind by Hui Ming. It's a pity that he spread too much faith and became bound by it. What a pity, what a pity. Crimson Rock Mountain used to be so lively. Now it's empty. All of them have disappeared. The old man with white hair and a youthful face sat on the peak of the mountain. A green wine gourd appeared in his hand. He took a sip and looked into the distance, seemingly in a daze. Chapter 334. In front of the blade scars on the cliff. All profound mysteries can be attributed to this blade. This blade is the heaven and earth. Isn't this body of mine a complete heaven and earth? My true meaning of 8 dragons can also become one. Percy muttered to himself. His mind was rapidly deducing. Donghua Shuiying stood there, practicing his spear arts. Suddenly, 9 mirage doppelgangers appeared beside him. Each of them held a condensed spear and practiced their spear arts. Some of their spear arts contained a terrifying, destructive intent. Some were as heavy as the stars or the earth. Some were erratic and strange, even producing many illusions. One blade to separate heaven and earth. One is heaven, one is earth. One blade to separate yin and yang. If there is yin, then there is yang. One blade to separate reality and illusion. There is reality and illusion. Donghua Shuiying muttered to himself. His spear arts became increasingly illusory. Even his entire body became somewhat illusory and transparent. The 9 mirage doppelgangers walked towards Donghua Shuiying's main body. The main body and the doppelgangers clashed. The doppelgangers disappeared. The main body became increasingly illusory and transparent. Soon, the 9 mirage doppelgangers disappeared. Reality is also illusory. Illusory is also reality. Donghua Shuiying smiled. His nearly transparent body disappeared completely. Within the mirage, Donghua Shuiying stood within a mirage. Suddenly, his entire body dispersed. From where Donghua Shuiying stood, there was a radius of 50,000 kilometers around him. At this moment, Donghua Shuiying could clearly feel this huge mirage. This was because his body had turned into particles and had become one with the mirage. He was the mirage, and the mirage was him. At the very least, the mirage within a radius of 50,000 kilometers was him. I am the mirage, and the mirage is me. Is this the mirage body? Or is this the so-called illusory body? Donghua Shuiying was still thinking. When his true meaning of star reached the stage 3 realm, he should have been able to cultivate the star immortal body. But the principle of the star immortal body was to absorb the energy of heaven and earth, or transcendent Do Qi, and strengthen every part of the body according to the profound laws of the true meaning of star. However, his body was constantly being tortured by the voodoo poison. There was no transcendent Do Qi in his body, and the power of heaven and earth was all used to recover the damage to his body. Furthermore, the voodoo poison had seeped into every single particle and could not be strengthened at all. The star immortal body had a strong defense and tyrannical strength. Perhaps it would be weaker than the Only Me body, but it should be comparable to General Kumeng's demonic body. Unfortunately, Donghua Shuiying was unable to cultivate. The body of nothingness was different. It had disintegrated its entire body and fused with the ethereal extent. It didn't matter if the voodoo poison permeated his body. This is what you call an undying body. Donghua Shuiying sighed. Ordinary undying bodies rely on life force. As long as one's life force is strong enough, they would be able to recover. As for the nihility body, it relied on the laws of profound mysteries to form an undying body. In order to attack me, my body would have to be scattered throughout the ethereal extent. Only by attacking the entire ethereal extent would it be equivalent to attacking me. As the true meaning of mirage grew stronger, Donghua Shuiying's control over the ethereal extent would continue to expand. At that time, it would be even more difficult to kill him. Even if it was a deity, a weaker deity wouldn't be able to do anything to me. Donghua Shuiying sighed. The true meaning of mirage, the attack was ridiculously weak, but in exchange, it gave him a terrifying survivability. The nihility body was slowly displaying its power. It could be said that after obtaining the Nihility body, Donghua Shui Ying's survivability had skyrocketed. After his entire body had fused with the Nihility body, it would be extremely difficult for any enemy to kill him. Furthermore, he could even counterattack. It could even be said that the Nihility body and the Only Me body represented two different directions. One was nothingness, while the other was reality. With the Only Me body, one would have an extremely powerful defense, strength, speed, vitality, and many other aspects. Naturally, it would be extremely powerful in close combat. Coupled with the true meaning of 8 dragons, it would be Persei. Coupled with the true meaning of space, it would be the Mishan Master. Both of them were extremely adaptable when faced with difficult situations. Previously, when they were facing the huge group of 8 tentacled monsters, Persei had only suffered once. However, those monsters were only able to trap him and not kill him. Originally, they had been separated for 100,000 kilometers, but now they instantly became one. The white-robed Donghua Shui appeared. He then walked out of the ethereal extent. Donghua. At this moment, Persei, who was in the midst of comprehending, stopped as well. He looked at Donghua Shui with some doubt. Just now, there seemed to be a unique undulation. Oh, Donghua Shui laughed. There was indeed an undulation. Be careful, it's the patrolling mountain beasts. Donghua Shui even had his suspicions. Was there someone controlling the patrolling mountain beasts in the dark? How could there be such a coincidence? He had just broken through, and the patrolling mountain beasts were attacking? Was it Senior Shui controlling it, or was it someone else? For patrolling mountain beasts. Donghua, hurry up and get close to me. Let's work together. Persei immediately became serious as he conjured 8 arms. Each of his arms expanded to 7 to 8 meters in length as they revolved around him. Clearly, he wanted to help defend against the attacks. Shui, on the other hand, was attacking the fishes that escaped the net. The cooperation between the two of them was rather perfect. But Donghua Shui turned and looked at the 4 gigantic patrolling mountain beasts in the distance. The patrolling mountain beasts were still roaring as they transformed into a gust of wind and charged over. Their speed was indeed very fast. Boom! The gravity domain directly enveloped the 4 patrolling mountain beasts, following which Donghua Shui appeared in the surroundings. With a single glance, there were a total of 36 Donghua Shui clones. Persei was shocked. An old thief had 36 clones back then. How could Donghua Shui have so many Mirage doppelgangers? Although the strength of these Mirage doppelgangers had increased tremendously, reaching the peak of the demigod level, against the patrolling mountain beasts, they were simply unable to stop them. These Mirage doppelgangers began to attack the patrolling mountain beasts. The patrolling mountain beasts charged at an astonishing speed. However, one of the Mirage doppelgangers at the side stabbed out with a spear that contained a destructive aura. The spear directly pierced into the claws of one of the patrolling mountain beasts, causing the beast to stumble and be sent flying. This attack was too sudden, and the power behind it was too great. A spear tripped yet another charging patrolling mountain beast. A Mirage doppelganger appeared out of thin air and stabbed its spear into the abdomen of the patrolling mountain beast. The patrolling mountain beast was sent flying, but it soon stabilized itself in midair. Roar, roar! The 4 patrolling mountain beasts began to panic. They glanced at the Mirage doppelgangers around them. How could each Mirage doppelganger suddenly erupt with such power? The 36 Mirage doppelgangers were scattered around them. Moreover, they were constantly changing. Some Mirage doppelgangers dissipated. In some places, new doppelgangers appeared out of thin air. Donghua Shui was not like an old thief. An old thief's offensive power was too weak. In fact, Donghua Shui's offensive power was even higher than that of Persei and the Mishan Master. Thus, he could casually change his position as though he was teleporting. In fact, this sort of switching was even faster than teleportation. His true body could be everywhere in the surroundings. Although he was alone, he could easily toy with the 4 patrolling mountain beasts in the palm of his hand. Dongbua Shui Ying's true meaning of mirage has broken through. Persei was watching from the side. There was no need for him to make a move. Reality and illusion alternated. He could attack from anywhere. This caused the threat of Dongbua Shui Ying's destructive star meteor annihilation to skyrocket. After all, if he could not kill his opponent, no matter how powerful his attack was, it would be useless. And since Dongbua Shui Ying was fighting at close range, it was very hard for him to dodge his attacks. The patrolling mountain beasts were hit again and again. Before long, the 4 patrolling mountain beasts completely disintegrated and dissipated. Dongbua, Persei sighed. Your power has already completely surpassed the few of us. Actually, the rest of us know that you are able to create a secret skill, one that combines 2 laws of profound mysteries. Your talent is far above ours. Furthermore, you are only at the peak of the 2nd stage, so breaking through wasn't difficult. However, who would have thought that this day would come? With your 3 true meanings having broken through, combined with your secret skill, no one would be a match for you. Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head. It's just a slight difference. In this Grand Canyon, there might be someone who can condense a grade 2 deity heart. Amen. Persei immediately nodded. He was filled with fighting spirit. Then I'll have to trouble you. When the time comes, I won't be able to deal with 10 patrolling mountain beasts. I'll deal with them, but it's just 10. I reckon that 3 or 4 of them will slip through the net. You'll have to hold them off for a while. Dongbua Shui Ying laughed. Haha, don't worry. I might not be good at anything else, but I'm good at defending myself. Persei laughed. As long as he could deal with the 10 patrolling mountain beasts, there would be no limit to how long he could stay in the Grand Canyon. Dongbua Shui Ying was also happy to stay here. He wanted to improve his 3 true meanings as much as possible. The more he improved, the greater his chances of clearing the sky-reaching vine. In the future, when he fought against the sorcerer god and the great demon god, he would be able to help even more. Chapter 335. Time passed day by day. Although Dongbua Shui Ying and Persei were filled with boundless admiration towards the saber scars on the cliff, they still continued to advance along the Grand Canyon, observing the new scars on the cliff. Who knew if there would be an even higher one, a more suitable one for themselves? In the blink of an eye, it was already the 1-month deadline. Ooh! A golden silhouette shuttled through the Grand Canyon. This golden silhouette suddenly stopped. It was none other than the black-skinned youth, the Lords of Ulan, who was wrapped in white cloth. At this moment, he turned his head to look at the cliff beside him. On the cliff was the same saber scar that Dongbua Shui Ying and the rest had seen before. That saber scar seemed to contain all the profound mysteries of the world. It was so shocking that it gave one the same feeling as when they saw the creation of heaven and earth. To think that there would be such a scar on the cliff. The Lords of Ulan revealed a vexed expression as he gritted his teeth. Damn it. I was afraid that Dongbua Shui Ying and Persei would join hands to deal with me. So I stayed at the back, not daring to advance too much. Who would have thought that there would be such an inconceivable saber technique here? If I had known earlier, I would have arrived here earlier. Staying here for close to a month would have been good too. Who knows, I might be able to break through and create my own secret art, or even condense a grade 2 deity heart. I still have time. I'll stay here for another hour. The Lords of Ulan could no longer hold it in. They immediately entered the grassland, where time flowed the fastest, and began to observe and ponder over the cliff. Even though time was accelerated by 15 times here, an hour in the outside world was equivalent to slightly more than 7 hours in the grassland. It was too short. Just as he was immersed in this feeling, he was forced to stop, because if he delayed any longer, he would not have enough time to charge out of the Grand Canyon. At that time, the ones attacking him would be the 5 patrolling mountain beasts. This Dongbua Shui Ying and Persei have ruined my fortune. The Lords of Ulan were furious. Such a mysterious saber scar, yet he could only comprehend it for such a short period of time. He could have comprehended it for a long time. I'll let you escape last time. Next time, wait for a chance. The lords of Ulan loathed Dongbua Shui Ying and Persei more and more. They even loathed the Xia people more and more as well. These damned races of the mortal world. Wait till I become an honorary disciple of Crimson Rock Mountain and leave. I'll let you know what regret is. The lords of Ulan glanced at the blade marks on the cliff unwillingly. Then, they quickly transformed into a stream of light and hurried on their way. Hoo-hoo-hoo. He traveled at a speed of 500 kilometers per second, and at the same time, he used the time deceleration domain to sense his surroundings. He was also afraid of bumping into Dongbua, Shui Ying, and the others. He was still confident in a one-on-one fight. 1 versus 2? That was practically courting death. In a wide canyon, Dongbua, Shui Ying, and Persei were pondering over a set of sword arts on the cliff. Actually, to transcendents and deities, the sword arts, saber arts, spear arts, etc. left behind by their predecessors were nothing. What they were looking at was the laws of profound mysteries contained within. After all, compared to the complete operation of the heaven and earth, the laws of profound mysteries used by experts were more direct and clear. This blood-creeping flower. Dongbua Shui glanced at a plant with green vines, green leaves, and red flowers beside him. The blood-creeping flower was now more than 3 meters tall. Other than the main green vines, there were many other thin vines. The thin vines were also covered with green leaves and red flowers. They swayed gracefully and looked very beautiful. Although they had only been in the canyon for close to a month, the blood-creeping flower had been absorbing the heaven and earth energy for more than a year due to the acceleration of time in different places. Dongbua Shui suddenly turned to the left and looked at the faraway end of the canyon. Persei, Persei, Dongbua Shui shouted. What's the matter? Persei stopped. I've discovered the lords of the lawn. Dongbua Shui lips curled up slightly. They're rushing over a high speed. They're about 90,000 kilometers away from us. His mirage could detect a whole 50,000 kilometers. The moment the lords of Elan entered his mirage, they were discovered. Elan? He's finally here? Ha! Persei's eyes were filled with coldness. Just in time. His time deceleration is also able to envelop a domain. Dongbua Shui said, it's estimated to be around 10,000 kilometers. The moment they get close, they'll discover us easily. Hence, I have to bring you into the mirage. Since you haven't grasped the true meaning of mirage, you won't be able to fight in the mirage. You can only listen to me. Haha, you're the one who saved my life. Bring me into the mirage. Persei didn't hesitate at all. Before Persei entered the Xia people's world, he had already collected information about the Xia people. Naturally, he had also collected information about Dongbua Shui. It was precisely because he had seen Dongbua Shui growth that he decided to help him and bring him into the mirage. Moreover, during this period of interaction, Persei was even more certain that Dongbua Shui was someone worth entrusting his life to. He wasn't a treacherous person. Haha, all right. The feeling of being trusted made Dongbua Shui very happy. He immediately extended his hand and grabbed Persei's wrist. At the same time, he beckoned with his other hand. Shui man, come here. The swaying blood-creeping flower obediently transformed into a stream of light and flew towards Dongbua Shui wrist. It transformed into a vine wrist. Who? Then, he took a step forward. Dongbua Shui brought Persei into the mirage. Inside the ethereal extent, Persei was dragged in by Dongbua Shui, and he looked around curiously at this world that was almost identical to the real world. However, there was a sense of repulsion from this world. If not for Dongbua Shui, he would have been expelled from this world. How magical, Persei complimented. Without enough strength, I can't even enter the ethereal extent. Even if you bring me here, I can't fight normally. At most, he could attack in the real world and force the power of the attack into the ethereal extent. You're very mysterious now, but when you become a god, or even stronger, you'll become even more mysterious. Perhaps one day, he might be able to enter the mirage as well, Dongbua Shuang said. Even if I could enter, I wouldn't be able to fight freely like you people who have grasped the true meaning of mirage. His strength was not affected at all. In fact, he might even be able to use it better. Percy I sighed. The true meaning of mirage was one of the more unpopular true meanings amongst the grade 2 true meanings. If he could grasp it, he could become a very formidable assassin. I heard that once you reach the mirage deity heart realm, you'll become even more formidable, Percy I said. You won't even need to fight personally. True is also illusory, and illusory is also real. Dongbua Shuang said, I'm currently at the stage 3 realm, and can be considered to have reached the stage of true is also illusory. Only when I reach the mirage deity heart realm can I be considered to have reached the stage of illusory is also real. True is also illusory. It meant that one's body could transform into an illusory body. Illusory is also real. It could allow a mirage avatar to become completely real. It would have the same combat power as the true body. This was terrifying. At that time, the true body would not need to fight and could simply hide within the mirage. As long as that mirage true body battled, even if it died, it could instantly reform. Every single grade 2 true meaning will become very formidable once you reach the deity heart realm. Dongbua Shuang continued, for your true meaning of only me or the true meaning of 8 dragons, once you reach the deity heart realm, your combat power will undergo a qualitative change. It's a pity that this step is extremely difficult to take. Percy I lightly shook his head. If the true meaning of only me could condense a deity heart, by relying on its inconceivable physique, it would be able to easily beat up any ordinary new deity. It's here, Dongbua Shuang suddenly said. Amen. Percy I immediately turned his attention to it. Dongbua Shuang could sense everything within a range of 50,000 kilometers and could also see the real world. As for Percy I, he could only rely on his eyes to observe the mirage. The Lords of Ulan were currently flying at high speed within a vast canyon. The cliffs beside them were filled with scars, causing his heart to ache. No matter how much his heart ached, he still had to proceed carefully. Amen. The Lords of Ulan seemed to have sensed something and abruptly turned their heads. Beside them, 2 male figures walked out from the mirage. One was a sickly white-robed teenager, while the other was a green-robed, middle-aged man who was emitting a savage aura. They were Dongbua Shuang and Percy I. The 2 of them stood side by side, their gazes landing on the Lords of Ulan. The 2 of them were not anxious at all, as they were fully confident that they could get rid of the Lords of Ulan here. Why are you 2? When the Lords of Ulan saw Dongbua Shuang and Percy I appear at the same time, they were so frightened that their hearts trembled. What was there to be afraid of? Where there's a cause, there's an effect. Everything you've done in the Xia people's world, the assassination plot you've set, all these causes have resulted in today's effect. You, Yulan, will die in this canyon. Dongbua Shuang coldly said. Chapter 336. Dongbua Shuang's voice was cold and calm, but Yulan could feel the bone-deep murderous intent. How could this be? How could they appear in front of me without me noticing? The Lords of Ulan were extremely anxious. What should they do? How could they survive? Countless thoughts flashed through their minds. The Lords of Ulan calmed down and thought of a solution. They squeezed out a smile and said, Gentlemen, why bother? The most important thing for us to do in Crimson Rock Mountain is to successfully pass the sky-reaching vine. However, you know how dangerous it is. Although the first and second vine leaf worlds are dangerous, they are more fortuitous encounters that help us discover our potential. From the third vine leaf world onwards, it will be even more difficult. I'm afraid you 2 know that our chances of passing the sky-reaching vine are very slim. However, I, Yulan, am the only one in Crimson Rock Mountain who can use God-grade scrolls. Dongbua Shuang and Percy I both realized this problem. Percy I, Misha Master, and Kinwang were all transcendent knights. Only the lords of Ulan from the Dark Abyss could use God-grade scrolls. The third Vine Leaf World's trial is very dangerous, but I can help you. I can help you use the godly grade scrolls to strengthen you. The lords of Ulan smiled, revealing their white teeth. This way, you will have a higher chance of passing the third Vine Leaf World, right? Compared to killing me, passing the sky-reaching vine is more important, right? Yulan looked at the two in front of him. Yulan felt hope and said, "In the end, I won't be able to ambush you. But if the four of you work together to threaten me, I will obediently use God-grade scrolls for you. Don't worry about this. I believe you have many God-grade scrolls that you haven't used yet. I can help you use them and strengthen you. There is no benefit in killing me. If you don't kill me, your chances of passing will increase," the lords of Ulan said. Donghua? Persei looked at Donghua, Shui Ying, and said, "Why don't we not kill him first and keep an eye on him?" "How can I keep an eye on him? We were planning to cultivate in the Grand Canyon for a year. How are you going to keep an eye on him this year? Moreover, once we go through the trial in the third Vine Leaf World, we won't be able to keep an eye on Yulan anymore." Donghua Shui Ying transmitted his voice. "But he can indeed use God-tier scrolls." Persei transmitted. The lords of Ulan watched from the side. Even though he couldn't hear them, he could tell that Donghua Shui Ying and Persei were having a discussion. "What you said makes sense." Donghua Shui Ying looked at the lords of Ulan. The lords of Ulan forced a smile and tried to show their friendly cooperation. "But you still have to die." Donghua Shui Ying's voice turned ice cold. As soon as he finished speaking, the fiery red spear in his hand slashed across the sky, leaving a fiery red mark in the sky as it headed straight for the lords of Ulan. Ew. The lords of Ulan didn't expect that Donghua Shui Ying would still want to kill him, even though he was the only one who could use a God-tier scroll. However, he was very decisive. Without hesitation, a God-tier scroll appeared in his hand. This was also his last God-tier scroll. Die! The eyes of the lords of Ulan were filled with madness. A black flame appeared out of nowhere and enveloped Donghua Shui Ying. After releasing the black flame, the lords of Ulan didn't even bother to look at the result. He immediately turned into a ray of light and tried to escape. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Numerous Donghua Shui Ying appeared beside him. Numerous Donghua Shui Ying appeared in all directions. Some of them were right beside the lords of Ulan. "Do you think you can escape?" All of the Donghua Shui Yings spoke at the same time. Although the black flame swept past the original body that was charging towards him, the original body was easily turned into nothingness. This is... The lords of Ulan looked at the 36 Mirage clones beside him. Their hearts turned cold as they thought of a terrifying possibility. Fear filled their hearts. The lords of Ulan fled even more desperately. Boom! A terrifying gravitational force appeared in the surroundings. The gravitational force acted on the bodies of the lords of Ulan. The lords of Ulan felt an invisible force dragging them, causing their flying speed to decrease. Die! Donghua Shui Ying appeared beside him out of nowhere, thrusting his spear towards him. Yulan immediately raised his hand to block the attack. The flow of time in the surroundings slowed down. Who? As the spear neared him, it immediately disintegrated. So this Donghua Shui Ying was just a mirage clone, a fake. Although Donghua Shui Ying could change his body, he had to be within 100 meters of him. Hence, his original body was currently chasing after him. Under the effect of the gravitational force, Donghua Shui Ying's speed was already much faster than that of the lords of Ulan. This spear attack from the Mirage clone scared the lords of Ulan so much that their speed was greatly reduced. This allowed the original body to catch up to them. Who? Another Mirage clone thrusted his spear at him with a majestic aura. Could it be another fake? Is he trying to slow me down on purpose? The lords of Ulan only casually sent a slap over, trying not to affect their speed. Boom! The spear carried an aura of destruction as it spun. Moreover, it also carried a terrifying gravitational vortex. The lords of Ulan's slap was actually unable to block it. His expression changed abruptly. It's real. This spear. It was even faster than the time when they exchanged blows outside the black-white deity mountain. More forceful, more bizarre. Let alone a casual slap. Even if the Lords of Ulan used their full strength, it would be hard to say if they could block it. Pooh! The spear spun and pierced through the left side of the Lords of Ulan's chest. The body of the Lords of Ulan instantly split into two halves. The area around the left side of his chest instantly split apart. After being pierced by the spear, the terrifying destructive power of the spear directly destroyed a small part of his body. However, the other half of his body that had been split apart earlier actually gathered together and recovered to its original state. Your demonic body is splitting quite fast. Dongbua Shui Ying's voice reverberated in the surroundings. Let's see how many times you can split. The Lords of Ulan was surrounded by a group of Dongbua Shui Ying, and all of them were brandishing their spears. The Lords of Ulan couldn't tell which one was real and which one was fake. Currently, Dongbua Shui Ying's Mirage Doppelganger had reached the pinnacle of the demigod level. It wasn't something that the Lords of Ulan could kill just by releasing the laws of profound mysteries. Dongbua Shui Ying, I can help you. I can help you. The hands of the Lords of Ulan enlarged. They were like two huge shields that were trying their best to defend against the attacks coming from all directions. However, the real stellar fire cloud spear still pierced through the body of the Lords of Ulan. When the spear pierced through his body had already split into many parts. After nearly half of his body was destroyed by the spear, the remaining parts of his body immediately merged together. This body of his, it can really split and merge as he wishes. Dongbua Shui Ying thought to himself, it's a pity that he still has to die. Without me, none of you would be able to use the God Tier scroll. The Lords of Ulan were in despair. They hurriedly transmitted their voices, causing their voices to reverberate in the surroundings. Persei, you have to stop Dongbua Shui Ying. This time, he truly felt the aura of death. Ulan was terrified. He regretted it. He truly regretted it. Why do you have to set up that death trap in the first Vine Leaf world? That's right. Back then, when he saw Dongbua Shui Ying and Persei facing the death trap, he had laughed in delight. However, Dongbua Shui Ying and Persei didn't die, especially since Dongbua Shui Ying's strength had become even stronger. Now it was his turn. Why? Why do I have to provoke him? What should I do? I don't want to die yet. I can't die. Crush the talisman. No. Once I crush the talisman and give up, I will be punished by the Abyss Oath. My soul will truly be destroyed. But even if I don't crush the talisman, I will still die in the hands of Dongbua Shui Ying. Ulan was extremely anxious. Although they had the talisman, in reality, Persei, the Maisha Master, Ulan, and the others had all sworn oath. Since the world deity had ordered them to come down, they naturally wouldn't be given any way out. If they didn't succeed, they would die. As for their subordinates, they didn't have as many restrictions as before. But if Persei died, the mission would fail, and Uncle Fu, who was outside, would die as well. Don't kill me. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. Ulan shouted. Pooh! The final spear thrust. The Lords of Ulan, who was already so weak that they could no longer maintain their bodies, watched in despair as the spear pierced through their heads. Hua! Their entire bodies were instantly destroyed, completely annihilated. Dang. A pair of translucent gloves fell to the ground along with a storage wristband, producing a crisp sound as they hit the stone floor. Hearing this crisp sound, Dongbua Shui Ying finally revealed a smile. He had finally killed him. Dongbua, Persei walked over and sighed. It's still better to see Ulan die, as long as you don't blame me. Dongbua Shui Ying said. You're right. I shouldn't have thought that I would get lucky. Persei sighed. Dongbua Shui Ying nodded. Previously, he had convinced Persei with a single sentence. In history, was there anyone who relied on a deity grade scroll to become an honorary disciple of Crimson Rock Mountain? None. The sky reaching Vine's trial. The further one progressed, the more one would have to rely on one's true strength. Moreover, Keeping Yulan alive would ultimately be a disaster. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.